What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 5 nanoseconds Chapter 116 What is the Awakening of Devil Fruit? Third Change. Advertisement Chapter 116 What is the Awakening of Devil Fruit? Third Update. Boom. Boom. Corazon's fingers flicked on Mitsuda Sukiyaki's forehead, making a thunderous sound, and instantly flicked the latter out. Kizaru, I'm not in a very good mood today. If you want to leave, take advantage of it now, or you won't have a chance. Corazon turned his head and said softly. There was a hint of danger in his voice, which made Kizaru shiver all over. Corazon with this look, it's the first time he's seen. Akainu, go, don't stand still. Kizaru grabbed Akainu's clothes and yelled in his ear. Even he didn't dare to provoke Corazon at this moment, if Akainu would be ****ed to death. Wait, let's go to the coast first and see when the members of the Roger Pirates will come. Akainu took a deep breath and whispered. Just when Kizaru and Akainu were about to leave, Corazon's eyes flashed coldly, his pupils stood upright, his whole body was burning with flames, his teeth instantly turned into crimson fangs, and his fiery red hair, which was different from that of the Fighting Tooth King, spread, instantly turning into a huge tengu with a length of nearly 8 or 9 kilometers. Corazon stood in midair, stepping on flames with 4 feet, and the violent flames continued to burn, causing the temperature of the entire Wano-kuni to rise sharply. This is the product of the fusion of the demon state and the big monster state, the flaming big tengu. Roar. Corazon opened his mouth and roared. His voice was stronger than that of the Doya Wong, so that the Doya Wong couldn't bear the deterrent force. He gritted his teeth and half knelt down, which made the deterrent force much less. The power of Zun Wong is definitely not a monster, it's too strong, it's terrifying, King Doya said in shock. It's Natsu's demon fire, and Kushina's 9 tails chakra, Kikyo exclaimed in shock. So many powers coming together, it's unimaginable. Corazon took a step forward, the flames burning on his paws were different from the fire cloud of Fighting Tooth King, with extremely powerful destructive power, instantly burning the ground into magma. You still don't want to leave, then you can stay with me. Corazon looked at Akainu coldly with erect pupils. After merging the ability of the big monster, his body has been strengthened several times. It can be said that his body is as light as a swallow, his ears are clear and his eyes are clear, even if it is thousands of meters away, he can clearly hear the buzzing of a mosquito. The whispers of Akainu and Aokiji, in Corazon's ears, were speaking into his ears. You are going to be unlucky. Kizaru looked at Akainu with pity, and his figure quickly turned into a flash of light, heading for the distant coastline. He didn't want to accompany Akainu to die. What's more, he let Akainu leave from the beginning, signed in the past and was stubborn, and didn't listen to him at all. In addition, Akainu's actions during this period made Kizaru give up on him. That damn traitor world government won't let him go. Akainu looked at the background of Kizaru going away, his eyes almost burst into flames, and cursed. Whether the world government will let him go, I don't know, but do you think I will let you go? Corazon walked over a few steps, looking down at Akainu. The mountain-like body and the burning flames made even Akainu, a magma man, feel a scorching heat, as painful as if his whole body was about to be burned. Die. Advertisement. A trace of flames flashed in Corazon's pupils, and he slapped his paws wrapped around the flames. Akainu's eyes were about to burst. He knew that Corazon would armament hockey. A slap of such a huge body would probably smash him to pieces even without flames. If adding the flame that can burn even steel and even magma, he will definitely be burned to ashes. Great eruption. Meteor volcano. The dog kills the Red Lotus. Akainu didn't dare to have the slightest hesitation. Armament hockey covered his hands, hot magma was spreading on his fists, bubbling constantly, emitting a pungent sulfur smell. When the magma was blown out crazily, Akainu seemed to have broken through the limits of his body. The magma spread so far that it almost covered the sky on the island, making the island smell like sulfur. In the blink of an eye, the sky became gray, revealing a glimmer of fire, which made people feel chills in their hearts. To spread the magma to such an extent, that fellow Akainu, is he awakened? Kizaru looked at this scene in shock from a distance. As we all know, the highest state of devil fruit is awakening, which means it can affect the surrounding things. Among them, Paramecia can assimilate substances, and can manipulate the assimilated substances. Kizaru was in the distance, his eyes almost popping out. I didn't expect that I would be blessed by misfortune and gain such powerful power. Corazon, I should thank you very much. To thank you, you should die for me. However, there is only one, that is Logia. Throughout the history of the world, Logia has never been awakened, and no one knows what will happen to Logia devil fruit after awakening. Now it is just a few kilometers of magma covering the surrounding area. If this can be called the awakening of devil fruit, Corazon will laugh out loud. Akainu. After laughing excitedly, Akainu looked at Corazon with killing intent on his face, punched the sky with both fists, and roared. Meteor volcano. I haven't even seen the real Logia awakening, and he wants to kill me. What an arrogant guy. Corazon pressed Akainu under his paw and said playfully. Corazon pressed his paw on the ground, of Li Hao. Just a slap, but it made a sound like a missile explosion, and Akainu's laughter was drowned in the explosion. Anyway, Akainu was slapped to death just after mastering the awakened state of Logia devil fruit. That would be too embarrassing. There is no dispute that Zone's awakening is to make the body stronger. You must know that in the future, Akainu and Aokiji, anyone can change the terrain of an island and turn an ordinary island into an island of ice and fire. This is the real awakening state. Snapped. But seeing the scene in front of him, Kizaru couldn't help but have some guesses in his heart. Maybe Logia's awakening, like Paramecia, can change the surrounding terrain. That B********** D is right under Corazon's claws. He must be crushed to death, Kizaru thought with his eyelids jumping. Akainu laughed excitedly, and was pleasantly surprised to see that the magma he controlled had covered thousands of meters. Is this awakening? Immediately, magma like a meteorite flew into the sky and smashed towards Corazon, but Corazon turned a deaf ear to all of this. When Akainu was excited to the extreme, he smiled playfully and slapped him. It's just stronger, just like the original soil around Akainu has turned into a piece of magma, and the overwhelming magma has completely changed the terrain of this sea area. Chapter 117 Akainu who was almost played to death, fourth more. Advertisement Chapter 117 Akainu who was almost played to death, fourth more. Hey, Akainu isn't really ed to death, is he? Kizaru's eyelids were twitching in the distance, and there was no movement for a long time. Could it be that Corazon's slap was really that strong, killing Akainu? Just when Kizaru was full of sorrow and thinking about how to explain to the world government, he suddenly saw Corazon for a moment. Well, it's Xiaoqiang from Immune to Death. Corazon raised his paw slightly, watching Zhu Yan who was desperately attacking him in the magma with great interest. Great eruption. Meteor volcano. The dog kills the red lotus. Akainu roared and controlled the violent magma. The magma area of hundreds of meters almost became Akainu's domain, and Akainu was covered with magma, like a magma monster. The violent magma hit Corazon's paws without pain or itching, and occasionally a few hairs would fall off. There is no picture of Corazon pulling out a hair of his own. Well, it's so boring. Corazon looked at Akainu, and lay down bored. With his current body size, Akainu is almost like a small ant, and he can push Akainu back dozens of meters with just a flick of his fingers. People around, watching the actions of Corazon and Akainu, 573's eyes almost popped out. Isn't this just an adult teasing a child? No, with Akainu's height, he can't even be considered a child. Perusalino, what happened to Akainu? Could it be that the Roger pirates have passed? Kong's puzzled voice came from the phone bug in Kizaru's hand. How should I put it? Kizaru rubbed his head with a headache. If he had known earlier, he would not have called Kong. In this situation, Kizaru has a headache on his face. How should he report it? Hurry up, Kong urged. To put it simply, Corazon came here and brought an elephant tens of thousands of meters high. He also destroyed the country on the elephant, and then an inexplicable strong man seriously injured Kaido of the beasts. Let us when he left. Akainu thought a little bit carefully, and now Corazon has turned into a big Tengu burning with flames, playing with Akainu, and Akainu is about to be played to death. That's the situation. Kizaru said in one breath. After finishing speaking he took a heavy breath. What he said almost didn't suffocate him to death. Kong. Wait a while, let me take it easy. Kong waved his hand, the corners of his mouth twitched. He turned his head to look at Sengoku and Garp who were also speechless, and asked speechlessly. What's going on over there now, do you understand? It's just a person who can't understand it, Sengoku said with a twitching corner of his mouth. Who the hell knows what's going on? The old man was dumbfounded. Garp said lightly, then shook his head, gave up thinking, grabbed the senbei and ate it. Don't give up thinking for me, Kong cursed angrily. Then I started to conceive the situation of Wano-kuni in my mind. After conceiving for a long time, I looked at the phone bug and asked. Perusalino, pick the point for me and say it 3 times. No matter how he conceived, he couldn't connect an elephant, a big Tengu and Corazon. Kizaru looked at the situation on the field, with a helpless face, said. Simply put, Corazon came to conquer Wano-kuni, advertisement. Okay, got it, the 3 of Kong Sengoku Garp said in unison. Hey, why do you understand all this? Crane Vice Admiral looked bewildered. She is still a Marine staff officer. After listening for a long time, she didn't react. But it's really hard for you, Peluzadino. Once you meet Corazon, nothing good will happen to you, Kong said with some pity. The last time I came back, Kizaru almost suffered from Corazon phobia, this time. But you never let me go, Kizaru said with a dark face. Well, who told you that your ability is the most convenient? Sengoku, BGDB, waved his hand and said. Ha ha ha, Kizaru, those who can do more work, don't complain, Garp said with a big laugh. A bunch of beasts. Kizaru cursed inwardly. I already have a general understanding of the situation. Leave Wano-kuni and Akainu alone and go back to naval headquarters first, Kong said after taking a deep breath. Wano-kuni has Corazon in the past, Marine can't get involved, and Kaido of the Beasts probably has no hope. As for Akainu, since he has joined the world government, let the world government gang buy it. Good. Kizaru's face was overjoyed, and he couldn't wait to agree, and without waiting for the phone bug to continue talking, he turned off the phone bug and threw it into the sea. Then it turned into a flash of light and quickly left Wano-kuni, killing him and never wanting to meet Corazon again. Akainu. Wish for luck. P.S. Kizaru's phone bug. Thank you so much. At this time, Akainu was exhausted and out of breath. Holding on to the magma stone, he looked at Corazon in disbelief. Akainu felt desperate and asked unwillingly. Well, maybe it's because I'm so handsome, Corazon said with a chuckle, the corners of his mouth curled up. You, how could you be so strong? Although Corazon was powerful in the past, if he was hit by him, he would also suffer damage, instead of completely ignoring it like this now. What does this mean? It means that Corazon has His demon form can control flames that are hotter than magma, even swimming in magma is no problem, and the fusion of demon form, Otengu form, Nine Tails chakra, accelerators vector control and other powers combine to bring it as fire immunity and the body's sharp strength. His lava fruit is one of the most destructive devil fruits in Logia, how could it be useless at all? Roger. Has nothing to do with me. Kizaru muttered to himself, although the next battle will be spectacular, but he is not a guy like Akainu, otherwise he might be the next Akainu. Then, looking at the place where the airflow passed by, the eyeballs almost popped out, and they turned into magma. After being beaten by him for a full 10 minutes, his record was only a few hairs. Kaido of the Beasts is the strongest creature. On the way back to Naval Headquarters, the flash of Kizaru's transformation stopped for a while, and then continued towards Naval Headquarters. Corazon yawned lazily, and a violent stream of flames rushed out of his mouth, causing Akainu's pupils to constrict suddenly, and he rolled towards a donkey next to him, avoiding the stream of air. The strength is at least several times stronger, Corazon dared to say now that as long as Kaido of the Beast stood up, he would explode him with one hand. Chapter 118 Akainu is reduced to a robot, 5th change. Advertisement Chapter 118 Akainu is reduced to a robot, 5th change. When Akainu heard Corazon's words, he almost spit out a mouthful of blood. Even if he didn't vomit blood, he kept coughing up blood. What is the relationship between strength and handsomeness? Corazon laughed when he saw this, although he didn't mind others knowing his powerful secret, but explaining it was too troublesome, so he didn't bother to say it. Well, what should I do with you? Slowly lowering his head, Corazon stared at Akainu, as if beating a small ant. It's a pity to kill it. If you keep it, magma. Corazon pondered for a moment, then his eyes lit up, and he clapped his hands and said, reclaim the sea to make land. That's right, Akainu's lava fruit is also a substance after all, a substance harder than ice. As long as the magma is solidified in the water flow, it can become volcanic rock and expand the territory. Bring this guy back, and with the brains of Orochimaru and those mad scientists, there will definitely be hundreds of ways to use it. Why F2F? Suddenly Akainu shivered all over his body, and looked at Corazon in horror, as if something bad was about to happen to him. Hey. Corazon laughed a few times, then raised his paw, and slapped it in the face of fear beforehand, boom. With a slap, the ground several thousand meters nearby trembled. Corazon raised his head and looked inside. Akainu, who was smashed into the soil, clapped his hands in admiration. As expected of Xiao Chang's life, I didn't faint, come again. Boom. 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 Corazon slapped down one after another, looking at the people in the distance, his heart trembled. This is Marine, plus Akainu has a strong body, if he was weaker, he would have been patted into a meat paste long ago. Of course, they also saw that Corazon didn't really use his full strength, otherwise it would be strange to slap Akainu to death with 10 slaps according to his previous strength. Seconds later, Corazon threw an unconscious Akainu onto the elephant's back, and then Corazon looked at Wano-kuni. Now that Kaido of the Beasts has fallen, Marine has done nothing, and there are only a few people left in this country who are capable of fighting. Sesumaru, inform Tiandao Pain to let him bring a few people over and take this group of islands away. Yes, Sesumaru replied respectfully, then took out the phone bug and called people in the Empire. B***********D. We Wano-kuni will not join any country. Although you helped us fight off those enemies, we will not join. At most, we can form an ally with you. We will help each other through life and death and never betray. This is the same as surrender. There is no difference, please clear and leave. Hearing Corazon's voice, Mitsuda Sukiyaki crawled out of the ruins with difficulty, knelt on the ground covered in wounds and said loudly. Allies. Corazon shook his head with great interest. He knew what the pirates meant, which was equivalent to a different kind of submission, but did he have to agree? His country doesn't need a second voice. Your country is already under my control. Now whoever refuses to obey my rule can stand up, if not, I will take it as your acquiescence. Corazon looked at the warrior of Wano-kuni and said with a smile. Mitsuda Sukiyaki, his face darkened instantly, looking extremely ugly. Corazon didn't care what he said at all. Advertisement still going his own way, making Mitsuda Sukiyaki angry, but also a touch of despair. What should he do in the face of this monster? Don't even think about it, you devil. It is impossible for us Wano-kuni to surrender to you, and it is impossible for me to agree with you. A samurai wearing a light kimono with a black kimono on the left half and a plain color on the right, and two flame-shaped scabbards, a samurai sword, came out and said loudly and firmly. Corazon turned his eyes, and his black pupils stared at the warrior, giving him a great sense of oppression. I remember your name is Kinemon, right? You can't submit to me no matter what? Corazon said with a smile. The pupils of the samurai headed by Mitsuda Sukiyaki narrowed sharply, and they looked at Corazon in disbelief. Knowing the name, could it be that Corazon has already cleaned up their investigation? That's right, as samurai we will never submit to you, a man next to Kinemon firmly said. He is Mitsuda Oden's retainer. He is also one of the Red Owl 9 heroes, and there is only one loyal one. That is Mitsuda Oden. That's a bit difficult. Since I came here, I don't intend to go there empty-handed. Corazon showed a headache, rubbed his head, and then said, if King Fighting Tooth suppresses all these guys, how many minutes will it take you? Ask for flowers. King Do-Ya took a look at everyone present, half-kneeled on the ground and said respectfully. If you report back to Zun Wang these guys, it only takes 10 minutes to defeat them all. Warrior, the king has already spoken. I can't let you down. The king, get ready. Now that Kabao is holding back his anger, there is no other way to vent it, and these guys have come up against the gun. King Duya stood up, and threw Tianshunya to Sessamaru, Kongnya to Sessamaru, Iron Broken Fang to Inuyasha, and he looked at those with empty hands. Buggy's eyes were dull, and after a careful look, his pupils narrowed sharply, tears streaming down his nose, and he shouted in fear. The guy on that guy's island is definitely not Kaido of the Beasts, but the king of the empire, Corazon. When did Kaido of the Beasts have this kind of monster's men? This spirit is too powerful. Is it the Udemon's demon fruit power? Bullet said excitedly, with a burning will to fight in his eyes. Especially, seeing the appearance of Tengu, who was about to approach Wano-kuni on a pirate ship, Roger frowned suddenly, and then shouted anxiously. Don't look down on us too much, Kinemon reacted, expressed shame at his retreat just now, and growled angrily. Although he is not Corazon's opponent, it is impossible for Corazon to defeat them within 10 minutes. What? No, 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 Captain, let's run, Mountain. Under the dignified eyes of countless warriors, Do Ya Wong grew bigger and bigger, and finally turned into a big Tengu bigger than an elephant, but he was still small and exquisite like Corazon. Corazon didn't speak, lying on the ground with a mountain-like body, staring at them playfully, enough to give people a sense of despair. Rayleigh nodded with a bitter face. The enemies he faced this time were marine and pirates, so it might not be a tough fight. When he was in Zou before, Do Yawang had already been criticized by Corazon. Hurry up, Mitsuda Oden's hometown is just in front of you. I'm afraid the heavy smoke is seriously injured, come with me quickly. Kinemon's pupils shrank sharply, and he took a step back involuntarily. Facing their Wanakuna's powerful fighting power, he talked for 10 minutes. Chapter 119 Roger who almost burst into foul language, 6th. Advertisement Chapter 119 Roger who almost burst into foul language, 6th. Corazon. Roger stared at Buggy the Clown. How did you know it was Corazon? With his eyesight, he could only see that the big flaming dog was terrifying, and his strength was extraordinary, but no matter how many there were, he couldn't tell. Captain, don't you usually observe it? The clown Buggy said without tears. That man Corazon, every time he appears on the stage, his eyes are exactly the same as now. Buggy, what are you talking about? Does that guy have any eyes? Shanks asked suspiciously. He could only see peace in the eyes of the huge flaming Tengu. Idiot Shanks, that guy's eyes look like he's watching a show, don't you see that? Buggy the Clown said, pointing at 20 Corazon, as if his hair had exploded. Watching a play. Roger was startled, and quickly looked over to Corazon, and suddenly took a breath, and sure enough, what he said to Buggy was right. Corazon's eyes seemed to be watching a good show. That guy's conquerors is the same, indifferent, high above, I didn't notice it, Roger said solemnly. I don't know what he is doing in Wano-kuni, but this look is really scary, Rayleigh said solemnly. It's as if you don't pay attention to life, you may cause a heinous killing, or you may save the people from the fire and water, everything is just like watching a show. Hurry up and approach the boat, I have a bad feeling in my heart, Roger urged anxiously. Then Roger looked at a burly man on board and comforted him. Oden, don't worry so much, I'm here, it's fine. Only then did Mitsuda Oden look away, and said gratefully, thank you, Captain, if it wasn't for me, you would have gone to the place where the great secret treasure is now. After learning that the last road sign is in the territory of the Kaido of the Beasts pirate group, it is clear that Roger can get it as long as he goes there, but because he came here Wano-kuni helped him fight against the invaders. What nonsense, we're partners. Roger said firmly, I will never let Wano-kuni be destroyed. At the same time, the sound of fighting on the territory of Wano-kuni was overwhelming, and Mitsuda Sukiyaki was bleeding all over his body, looking at the scene of fighting around him with piercing eyes. It is said to be a fight, but it is actually the killing of Inuyasha Tugawang and others on the one hand. Inuyasha holds the iron broken teeth in his hand, and the wounds of the wind burst through Wano-kuni like a tornado. The roaring claws of the Duya King can even destroy a village. After the sharp claws pass by, even 30% of the land is cut off. Corazon, killing us in Jiguo for no reason, what good is it for you? With the territory you own, you should look down on us Wano-kuni? Mitsuda Sukiyaki growled angrily through gritted teeth. Kaido of the Beasts, the purpose is the sea stone they can mine in Wano-kuni, he admits that, but what is the purpose of Corazon? Idiot, what reason does war need? Corazon glanced at him lightly, and said, if I have to say something, it is because I want to unify the world, not against you Wano-kuni. Are you kidding me? Mitsuda Sukiyaki waved his big hand angrily. The whole world is so huge, how can you unify it with just you? Besides us and naval headquarters, there is also world government, besides world government, there are countless pirates, how can you possibly do that? How do ants know the light of the bright moon? Corazon said lightly, with the knowledge of these guys, naval headquarters is their limit, and he doesn't even bother to talk because he doesn't have any bigger ambitions. In the final analysis, there is no reason for war, and hatred may continue to spread from generation to generation, but what about after the 3rd generation, after the 5th generation? Advertisement: the people born under the rule of the empire will only lament the power of the empire and work hard for the empire. As for the country of history, it has long been destroyed by history. Corazon. Boom. Just when Corazon was thinking, there was a roar from the coast, and then, the berserk conqueror's haki enveloped him. In an instant, the samurai who fought against Sessamaru and others collapsed to the ground with a plop, and Corazon couldn't laugh or cry. That idiot. This conqueror's haki, he recognized, was Roger's, but what was it for? Seeing that he is too troublesome to solve, are you going to help him? Captain, quickly take back your conqueror's haki, the fallen are all warriors of our country, Mitsuda Oden said anxiously. Roger looked at the fallen man and was dumbfounded. Such a huge war. Corazon only brought 5 or 6 people. Is that kid sick? If you don't bring so many troops, why not take these few people? Seeing this scene, Roger couldn't help but swear, it was unbelievable. He is also a person with a wide intelligence network. He heard that under the rule of the Corazon Empire, the army is at least hundreds of thousands, which is several times larger than that of the naval headquarters landowner Shifang Marine. According to normal people's thinking, to start a war, shouldn't we pull out all the family property and crush it with strength? Although it is said to be crushing right now, Roger feels weird no matter what he thinks. It actually accidentally injured the friendly army. Rayleigh looked at Roger with a dark face, although he knew that the captain had a strong personality, but this was an indiscriminate blow to his face. Roger is also suffering. He originally wanted to deal with Corazon's hundreds of thousands of troops. Who would have thought that Corazon would never bring them here? Boom. When Roger was about to take back the conqueror's haki, Corazon's eyes showed excitement, he transformed into a human form, and his eyes showed enthusiasm. Suddenly, a white light radiated from his eyes, and then 5.1, a red conqueror's haki formed around his body. Boom. Roger's face changed drastically, and he looked at Corazon in shock. In such a short period of time, the strength has become so much stronger. Not good, I can't stand it. Sensing the powerful Roger of Corazon conqueror's haki, his face flushed a little, and he took 2 steps back, making Pluton Rayleigh's eyes widen. Under the confrontation of conqueror's haki, Roger fell into a disadvantage. Is that guy so strong? Bullet's face was full of fanaticism. In his opinion, Gold Roger's conqueror's haki is the strongest in the world. It is precisely because of Roger's strength that he chose to follow Roger. Now Corazon's strength has already surpassed. Chapter 120 Roger on the verge of death, 7th change. Advertisement Chapter 120 Roger on the verge of death, 7th change. Rayleigh, Bullet, Jabba, Shanks. Roger clutched his chest, blushing and roaring. Corazon's conqueror's haki is too destructive and erosive, especially the hot breath, which is not like haki at all, but more like the devil's breath that destroys everything. Rayleigh, Bullet and others responded, and 4 strands of conqueror's haki of different colors erupted from Roger's pirate ship in an instant, carrying Corazon's haki head-on. Boom. 5 powerful conqueror's haki swept across the entire Wano Kuni in an instant, turning Wano Kuni into a Shira field in an instant, and the golden sunlight was enveloped by colorful conqueror's haki. Throughout Wano Kuni, the streets and houses are full of fainted people, like a dead city. Your Majesty. Do Ya Wang looked at Roger and the others angrily, but his strength was too weak, and Zun Wang repeatedly attacked him. Stop, continue to kill those who rebel against 16, you are not needed here, Corazon said with a faint smile. In the end, he still overestimated the Duya King. He originally thought that the Inuyasha world was stronger than the Forbidden World, but he didn't expect that the Duya King's strength was not even a little bit weaker than Yifeng Accelerator. Thinking about it, no matter how strong Duya King's fighting power is, how could it be better than Accelerator who can stop the autobiography of the planet? However, this also made Corazon more interested in the upcoming SS rank forces. After conquering Wano Kuni, his people will exceed 10 million, and he can continue to summon S-level forces at that time. Next, based on Wano Kuni's force, it will at least add hundreds of thousands of soldiers to him. If this continues, B-level forces are no longer far away. Thinking of this, Corazon was not angry but happy, and even couldn't help laughing. Roger really helped him a lot. The 5 powerful conquerors' battles directly made Wano Kuni lose 99% of his resistance, allowing him to take over the country perfectly. From this point of view, he really wants to thank Roger. Wow. In just a few seconds of the confrontation between conquerors, Roger couldn't bear the pain in his chest and spit out a mouthful of blood. Captain Roger. Mitsuda Oden's expression changed drastically. He knew that Roger was seriously ill. Not only was he unable to fight for a long time, but he was also unable to mobilize Conqueror's haki for a long time. In the previous battle with Corazon, Roger was almost killed. He managed to save him, but his body was already suffering from the disease. In front of Haki and Corazon, if he persisted for a few more minutes, maybe Roger might die suddenly on the spot. Really, don't be brave if you are in such a poor health. Corazon looked at Roger who was spitting out blood, curled his lips, and took back the Conqueror's haki directly. Boom. Losing the 5 strands of Conqueror's haki against the opponent made Roger and the others change their expressions drastically, but it was extremely difficult for them to get back such a violent haki for a while, so they had to look anxiously at Corazon. At this moment, they completely forget that Corazon is the enemy. Just now, Corazon's Conqueror's haki can still last for a few minutes. The reason for withdrawing it is probably because Roger vomited blood. This is called Conqueror's haki withdrawal. If they hurt Corazon because of this, they will definitely be condemned in their hearts. Seeing the worried expressions of Rayleigh and others, Mitsuda Oden clenched his palms involuntarily, and then looked at Corazon coldly. Did he do it on purpose? Advertisement play tricks and make it difficult for Roger to come out of the country. While thinking, Mitsuda Oden grasped the knife in his hand and looked at Corazon coldly. Is this the guy who attacked Wano Kuni? As long as Corazon is seriously injured, he must kill Corazon before Roger stops him. Only in this way can Wano Kuni be saved. Well, Corazon looked at the 5 strands of Conqueror's haki rushing towards him, the corner of his mouth curled up slightly, and he stretched out his palm wrapped in flames, and an inexplicable force gathered in his hand. Devil's Roar. Pointing his palm at the 5 powerful conquerors, Corazon opened his mouth, and roared like a giant dragon, sweeping the waves instantly, and the violent flame instantly resisted the powerful conqueror's haki, even showing signs of burning. At the same time, Corazon was madly calculating conqueror's haki in his mind, and the vector control was almost pushed to the extreme. Reflection. 10 seconds later, Corazon closed his mouth with a subtle arc, and the overwhelming conqueror's haki instantly reflected to the surface of the sea, setting off a violent wave. What? Mitsuda Oden, who was watching this side, saw this scene, his eyes widened in shock, and his hand holding the saber dropped involuntarily. Captain Roger, Deputy Captain Rayleigh, their conqueror's haki was blocked in a few seconds, even reflected into the sea. Mitsuda Oden swallowed uncontrollably, panic appeared in his eyes. Facing such a powerful enemy, he is definitely not an opponent and can only rely on Captain Roger, but is it really possible for Captain Roger to help him fight against Corazon? Thinking of this question, Mitsuda Oden's face was extremely ugly. Wano Kuni, that was his home, how could he see his hometown being destroyed in front of his eyes? But Captain Roger was seriously ill, and he couldn't fight for a long time at all, and his brother Corazon was merciful just now, and Roger's character is definitely not the kind of person who will repay kindness with revenge. Captain Roger, you must help me, hateful. Mitsuda Oden prayed in his heart, then watched Corazon cursed viciously, put his hand on the knife, and walked towards Roger, with a nervous expression on his face. The only one he can rely on now is Roger. Captain Roger, are you okay? Mitsuda Oden asked nervously. If Roger's injury breaks out at this time, there is really no way to fight. Roger wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and laughed boldly. This injury is nothing, don't worry, I will definitely protect your country. Yeah. Mitsuda Oden nodded moodily. However, Rayleigh on the side looked a little unhappy or angry. Mitsuda Oden clearly knew that Roger's body was no longer capable of high-intensity fighting, especially when the opponent was Corazon, but he still didn't stop him. Isn't this equivalent to letting Roger die? Roger. Rayleigh couldn't help shouting out, but Roger waved his hand, stepped off the ship, and said firmly, if I can't even save my partner's family, what kind of captain am I? Chapter 121. Isn't it good to die in an adventure? I have to come here to seek death. First update. Advertisement. Chapter 121. Is it not good to die in an adventure? I have to come here to find death. First update. Well, Roger, it's all like this, so stop messing around. It's not enough to cherish your adventure. Corazon said lazily, leaning against a tree. With Roger's body, if there are no major accidents, it will be 3 or 5 years. If he goes through the battle again, it may not even be 3 years. Ha ha ha, that's not okay. Besides adventure, my most precious thing is my companion. Roger smiled boldly and walked over. Rayleigh Bullet and others followed Roger vigilantly, for fear that Corazon would suddenly violently kill people. Corazon, tell your subordinates to stop and stop killing. Mitsuda Oden roared through clenched teeth. Those who can persevere under the 5 strands of Conqueror's haki are all the elite of Wano Kuni. If Doyuwang Seshomaru and others continue to kill, even if Wano Kuni is not destroyed by Corazon, I am afraid that Wano Kuni will be seriously injured. Well, this is a war between countries. Isn't it normal for people to die? Corazon said lazily. But this is not war, it's massacre, Roger said, frowning. The fighting power of Doyuwang, Seshomaru and others is similar to that of Pluton Rayleigh and others. Facing a group of guys with weak strength, they are simply slaughtering. War is killing. Why do you care so much for victory? Corazon twitched his lips and nodded to Kikyo, who brought a table and made tea for Corazon. Come on, have some tea first, and don't talk about things I'm not interested in, Corazon said with a smile. Roger frowned, and when he wanted to say something, Rayleigh slapped him on the shoulder. Listen to him first, Rayleigh said in a low voice. If Corazon is angered at this time, Roger can fight with his will, but Shanks, the clown, Buggy and the others can't. Death is absolutely inevitable. Rayleigh, Mitsuda Oden clenched his palms tightly, looked at Rayleigh and growled. He could hardly control the anger in his heart when he saw the scene of killing. He wanted to take out his saber and kill the demon in front of him. How could he be in the mood to watch Corazon drink tea? Shut up. Do you want Roger to die here? There was haki in Rayleigh's eyes, and he forcibly suppressed Mitsuda Oden's words. Worthy of Pluton Rayleigh, Corazon sighed in admiration. Roger, as the captain, would never stand by at this time, but Rayleigh, as the deputy captain. In terms of work, we must ensure Roger's safety, and it will be almost the same as the future 3-sword stream. Call. What do you want to ask? Roger took a deep breath and asked in a low voice. The partner's country is being invaded, and if Corazon hadn't been merciful before, Roger would have tried his best to stop Corazon. Nothing to ask, just want to drink tea, Corazon said with a smile. He has nothing to ask, just want to drink some tea with the future One Piece. Damn B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** stone angrily and cursed. How dare you fool them here, keep your mouth clean. Suddenly, Kikyo's cold voice came from the side, and an arrow entwined with powerful spiritual power cut through the air, and shot through a rockery in front of Mitsuda Oden with a bang. The pierced stone made a loud bang, and the gravel cut through Mitsuda Oden's face, making him take a deep breath. He just saw that it was just an arrow, so he didn't take it seriously, but he didn't expect that this sword could have such a powerful lethality. Obviously it didn't even have armament hockey. That guy Corazon's subordinates are a group of guys with extremely strange abilities. Fuli thought with some worry in his heart. Corazon, if you don't give up attacking Mitsuda Oden and conquering Wano Kuni, then I will fight you. Roger's voice was low, but revealed a firmness. Corazon smiled indifferently. How could his decision be stopped because of one Roger? Roger, your body. Rayleigh said worriedly. I'm fine. Roger waved his hand boldly, indicating that his body is fine, but accidentally got involved in the wound. Roger immediately spit out a mouthful of blood. Especially the clown buggy, looking at Corazon, is almost scared to pee. Seeing this, Corazon raised his head and drank the tea in his hand, and stood up slowly, with excited eyes. As expected, he has the same character as Luffy, but his methods are much more ruthless than Luffy's. Roger, I heard that you used to destroy a country for your crew. If so, you can understand my intentions, Corazon said with a smile, opening his hands. Roger destroyed 10 countries because the crew was insulted. He wanted to conquer the whole world, so he attacked Wano Kuni, and what the two did was, in fact, pretty much the same. Roger pulled out the western sword held in his waist, looked at Corazon solemnly, and didn't even dare to say a word. He is naturally aware of his body. A short-term battle may be fine, but if he wants to fight for a long time, the loss of physical strength will make him lose resistance, so Roger should save his physical strength as much as possible. Rayleigh bullet. Roger roared, and the figure rushed out. Seeing this, Rayleigh sighed secretly and followed Roger's footsteps. Although he doesn't want to fight Corazon, in this case, it seems that he can't help but whether he is willing or not, but the previous Roger is not Corazon's opponent. Facing the current Corazon. They really will. Good Zhao, good, is it your opponent? Go to hell. Mitsuda Oden rushed forward with a long knife on his face. Behind Guangtian Oden, 1 or 2 fur tribes. Their hands were also full of lightning, and they rushed up with a roar. The target was exactly Bellflower. Ah, fur tribe, don't you want to go and see? I'm afraid you two are the last adult fur tribe. Corazon said with a faint smile. There are not many adult fur clansmen left on Zou, so if you think about it, these 2 furs in front of you are still rare animals. Cat Viper was taken aback, stopped in his tracks, looked at Corazon in disbelief. What did he say? They are the last 2 adult fur tribes. How could it be, on Zou? Suddenly, Cat Viper and Inuarashi turned their heads, looked at the huge elephant in the distance, their pupils turned red instantly, and looked at Corazon angrily and roared. What have you bastards done to our hometown? Chapter 122 Defeating Bullet's armor with 1 punch, second change. Advertisement Chapter 122 Defeating Bullet's armor with 1 punch, second change. Roar. The giant elephant let out a long roar. The sound was piercing, and everyone thought it was just an unintentional roar of the giant elephant, but Roger's face changed when he heard it, and he looked at Corazon in shock. You destroyed Zou. What? Mitsuda, Oden, Mamushi, Inuarashi, and others suddenly stared at Roger with wide eyes. What did he just say? Corazon destroyed Zou. Hey, are you kidding me? Mitsuda Oden stared wide-eyed. Roger can understand the voice of all things, he knows it. But, Zou, there is a natural fighting race on Zou, the fur tribe exists, how could it be destroyed? Well, those guys are going to kill me indiscriminately, and they are too stubborn, so. Corazon spread his hands and explained lightly. However, before Corazon could speak, Roger couldn't hold back the anger in his heart, and regardless of his physical condition, he stabbed directly at Corazon with his western sword. What did they do wrong? You took the initiative to attack their territory, what's wrong with shooting at you? Roger roared angrily. Well, there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm still upset. Corazon stretched out his finger, aimed at Roger's stabbed sword, and said with a hook on the corner of his mouth. You actually destroyed a country because of something like 823. Drink it. Roger's eyes were full of anger, and he roared loudly, covering the armed color with the western sword in his hand. Haki became stronger and stronger, and the index finger that was in contact with Corazon sent out purple air currents, sweeping half of Wano Kuni like a gust of wind. The clown buggy was so frightened that his nose and tears came out in this airflow, and he was blown away screaming. Shanks was also in the air current, barely inserting his long sword into the ground and struggling to support it, so as not to be swept away by the strong wind, watching the scene in shock. What a powerful flame flow and power, that guy really is a monster. Shanks muttered in shock. After all, Corazon was almost the same age as him. But his body is already close to 3 meters long, and with this strength, Shanks can't even think about it. That's not power, but something stronger than power. Rayleigh gasped and said in shock. Ignoring Roger's power is like being absorbed. You don't seem qualified to say that to me, Roger who destroyed a kingdom. The corner of Corazon's mouth hooked, and under Roger's angry gaze, he took a step forward and grabbed BGBH, Roger's blade. Reflection. Crack. All the power of Roger's attack just now was reflected back to Roger's blade in Corazon's palm. Under everyone's unbelievable gazes, Roger's hand was covered with Armament Haki's knife, and he couldn't bear it. It shattered into cracks like a spider's web, and then with a click, the western sword broke into several pieces and fell on the ground with a crackling sound. On the ground. Armament Haki couldn't resist the guy's punch. Roger, you really got into a big trouble this time. With excitement on his face, Bullet rushed out quickly. Hurry up and help Roger, or you will definitely not be an opponent. Pluton Rayleigh roared, and anxiously stood in front of Roger. Against anyone else, even the Golden Lion, Pluton Rayleigh wouldn't be so nervous. However, Golden Lion has been defeated by Corazon, and it is said that it has become a lift now. Advertisement. Thinking of this, Rayleigh couldn't help wanting to let Roger run away, but he also knew that with Roger's personality it was impossible to run away, so he could only stand in front of Roger vigilantly. Boom! Corazon chuckled lightly, signaling to Do Ya Wong that they don't need to come to help him, and then stepped on his foot and shot out like a cannonball. Come on, be careful! Roger clutched his chest and yelled. Won't let you go any further. Navigator Jabba yelled and stood in front of Corazon, but Corazon looked at him, just waved his palm, and a powerful repulsion burst out of his body. Super Shenluo Tianzheng. The berserk force instantly changed Jabba's face, and left 2 deep marks on the ground with his feet. Finally, he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was knocked out and smashed into several mountains one after another, and was deeply embedded in a mountain. Armor fusion. Medium bullet. Form. With a loud roar, Bullet stretched out his hand and grabbed a ship leaning on the coast. In an instant, Bullet's body transformed into a huge robot with a size of tens of meters and made of steel. Heir of the demon, Bullet, you are still too weak. Corazon couldn't help laughing. In the future, Bullet's strength will be stronger than this. After Devil Fruit awakens, he can even form a Super Titan with an island. At that time, maybe he can fight him a few tricks, but now, no. Maybe Academy City can also be transformed into a 1,000-meter steel titan. The giant robot let out a roar, and the fist made of steel smashed down with a bang. Rayleigh glanced at Bullet anxiously. Bullet is a combined person who ate the combined fruit. His attack power and defense power are several times stronger than him, and it is more than enough to resist for a few minutes. Then he looked at Bullet, laughed and said, there was a deafening crash from Bullet's body, like a muffled thunder, and then Bullet's body flew upside down like a meteorite. The impact was harder than Jabba's, and the armor on his body was almost reduced to parts. Bullet, study devil fruits on feeling well, and come to me when the time comes. However, at this moment, a deafening sound sounded, causing Rayleigh's palm to freeze in midair. Boom. He likes Bullet's devil fruit ability very much, thinking about creating a steel city when Bullet wakes up. Will it become a steel titan like Transformers? Just don't think about winning, just delay for a while, take Roger back to the boat and get out of here, Rayleigh said nervously, but Roger didn't agree to leave Zhang. Corazon looked at Bullet who was gradually recovering, smiled excitedly, and chased after him in a few steps. His hands were cast like steel, with powerful strength, and he tore apart the armor on Bullet. Boom. But if Roger refuses to leave, no matter how long Bullet delays, it will be useless. Thinking of this, Rayleigh clenched his fists, looked at Roger who was bleeding from the corner of his mouth, his fists turned into knives, and slashed straight at him. Deputy Captain Rayleigh, can you win? Shanks asked nervously after seeing it. Bullet spat out a mouthful of blood, but with a look of fanaticism on his face, he pushed with his ability, allowing the broken armor to continue to fuse. Corazon, who is stronger than Roger, fall down. Wow. Damn it, Chapter 123 moved Wano Kuni away and will be summoned soon, third change. Advertisement Chapter 123 moved Wano Kuni away, will be summoned soon, third change. Rayleigh, Roger is dying. Pluton Rayleigh saw Jabba and Bullet flying upside down, and was about to grit his teeth and rush forward when he saw Corazon pointing behind him with a surprised face. Without the slightest hesitation, Rayleigh's face changed drastically and he turned his head away. Then when I turned around, I was dumbfounded. Because Roger was looking at him in bewilderment, and the two looked at each other. Roger had 10,000 questions in his mind. When is he going to die? Fool. A smile appeared on the corner of Corazon's mouth, and he hugged Rayleigh's shoulders at once, and the 6 golden chains behind him were wrapped around Rayleigh's body, preventing him from moving. Adamantine sealing chains. Corazon, you are plotting against me. Rayleigh roared in grief and indignation, wishing to give himself a slap in the face. How could he be fooled so easily? Fortunately, he still believes that Corazon has such a strong strength, so he will not deceive people. Corazon, what about your integrity as a king? Roger said, suppressing the desire to vomit blood. If Corazon crushed Rayleigh with his strength, he wouldn't say anything, but he wanted to play them, and Roger almost had the urge to vomit blood. Well, the idiot captain and the idiot crew, it would be a pity not to play, Corazon said with a smile. Ah, Shanks, the captain has been caught, let's run away. Seeing Corazon easily grabbing Rayleigh, Buggy's eyes almost popped out, his body was torn apart and he was about to flee. Buggy. Corazon turned his gaze away and muttered to himself, which froze Buggy the clown for an instant. No, my name is known, Clown Buggy yelled in despair. Drink. At this moment, Mitsuda Oden's eyes flashed coldly, his body bent, and he slashed at Corazon's neck. Corazon smiled slightly, flexed his index finger, and the vector control deprived Wano Kuni of the nearby sea of kinetic energy. Then the figure flashed, narrowly dodged the knife, and aimed his index finger at Mitsuda Oden's forehead. Boom. Corazon said with a smile, then flicked his index finger. Boom. Mitsuda Oden's head made a thunderous sound, shot out like a meteorite, smashed several mountains one after another, and finally embedded deeply in a mountain. Life or death is unknown. Oden. Roger let out a growl with eyes wide open, spat out a mouthful of blood, and slashed at Corazon regardless of his own injury. Is this the legendary explosive seed? Corazon raised his eyebrows, his figure flashed, and his body moved forward along the long knife in Roger's hand, only about 1 centimeter away from his neck. Roger clenched his teeth and slashed down on Corazon's neck, but Corazon grabbed Roger's hand. In an instant, Roger felt the world spinning, half kneeling on the ground with a plop, and the knife in his hand fell powerlessly. What's this? Advertisement, Roger asked with difficulty. Now he only felt his eyes spinning, as if he might faint at any time. I manipulated the blood in your body, so it is flowing backwards. As long as I move slightly, the blood rushes to your head and it will explode. By the way, that Mitsuda Odin is basically useless, and his limbs can no longer move, Corazon said with a smile. As long as it is touched by his arm, the blood in the body will be controlled by him. Even Roger can't stop the reverse flow of the pulse. Just sit down. Corazon threw Roger back on the chair, then looked at Wano-kuni playfully. Your Majesty, we are here. At this moment, several figures rushed over from the distant sea, and accompanied by a gust of wind, Accelerator's figure appeared in front of Corazon. Followed by Tiandao Pain, Naz and so on. Come fast enough. The corner of Corazon's mouth curled up, pointing to the continent of Wano-kuni. Since you are here, let's move this continent back to me, and let Orochimaru disperse the people here. Yes. Several people responded respectfully, and then Accelerator laughed wildly and stomped his feet. In an instant, the sky and the ground shook. The whole Wano-kuni trembled, and countless houses collapsed. Even this area of the sea has set off violent waves. Ask for flowers. Roger was shocked to find that the place where Wano-kuni Island was closely connected with the seabed began to crack. If this continues, the island might sink into the ocean. Corazon, you don't need to kill so many people if you want to conquer this sea area. Roger wanted to yell, but his voice got smaller and smaller, until it disappeared. The eyeballs of the Roger pirates almost popped out, looking at the gradually floating island in shock. Wano-kuna's territory is huge, but it is such a huge island, it is gradually flying up. This, the ability user of Lion Fruit? Rayleigh said in shock, then shook his head, overturning his own thoughts. Golden Lion is alive and well in Corazon's empire, and it is said that it is still a well-received elevator, so it is impossible to appear here. Zero, could it be Corazon's inexplicable subordinate again? Universal pull. Tiandao Pain was floating in the sky, and the chakra all over his body gushed out crazily, gradually floating this piece of continent, and Accelerator also used his own ability to reduce the weight of this piece of continent. Just like that, the Roger pirates watched in amazement as they gradually floated into the sky. Although I've heard that Corazon can move islands, I never thought it would be such a simple and crude method, Pluton Rayleigh murmured dully. That guy makes me feel very dangerous. Bullet clutched his chest, looking at Accelerator and Tiandao Pain in the sky in shock. Corazon smiled slightly, ignoring the shock of everyone in the Roger pirates, and began to ponder in his heart. After the island where Wano-kuni is located is integrated into the empire, at least 7 or 8 million people will be added. In addition to the gains that Accelerator has gained in the past few days, it may have broken through the 10 million mark. At that time, the S-level force can summon another one. Even so, Corazon didn't have any hope. After all, Academy City in the Forbidden World is already the ceiling of a level 5 power. Wouldn't it be better to have another one? Well, take a look. Maybe there is a surprise. Chapter 124 Roger Pirates with Broken Worldview, 4th. Advertisement Chapter 124 Roger Pirates with Broken Worldview, 4th. Boom. With a loud bang, Wano-kuni floating in the sky was firmly embedded in the gap of the empire. Immediately after the island fell, thousands of clones ran to the island with guns in hand, and captured a large number of fainted residents. Ah, Zunwang is really amazing. This continent is almost 1/5 of our effort, Deidara said in surprise. As expected of a king, he's so handsome, Ah Fei said excitedly. The king is back. I must serve the king well tonight, so that Misaka Makoto can listen to me, Shokuhou Misaki said excitedly, holding her small palm. This island is really big, and it contains a lot of mineral veins, Pluton Mardo said with shocking eyes. The bottom of Wano-kuna's land can be said to be full of iron ore. No, it is the seastone vein, but he knows how precious this mineral vein is, and he may not be able to buy it with thousands of gold. Ah, Lieutenant Captain Rayleigh, we have been captured and taken to their base camp. We cannot escape now. We will definitely be killed. What should we do? Buggy, don't think so badly. Maybe that lord didn't want to kill us and let us go. Shanks withdrew his shocked gaze, looked at Buggy the clown and said, how is it possible? Idiot, our captain is Roger, a man whose strength is comparable to the Golden Lion. How could he let us go? Buggy the clown said with tears streaming down his face. Even the Golden Lion is imprisoned here. How could they escape? It's okay, Roger. I heard that the strong men captured by Corazon will not suffer any abuse. Maybe your injury can be healed by it, Pluton Rayleigh said softly. He knew how much Roger yearned for freedom, but now that he was a prisoner, he had to be honest. Otherwise, offend Corazon. Maybe the other party may really kill Roger in a fit of anger. Roger agreed with an ugly face. He wanted to save someone, but he didn't expect that he would not be saved, not to mention that he became a prisoner. As soon as they saw Roger, all the pirates in Impel Down were overwhelmed and stood there in a daze, only to be swept away by Jin's cold light before starting to work. Just when all the pirates were in shock, Golden Lion was overjoyed. After happily raising an island into the sky, Golden Lion ran to Roger with a jug of wine. Ha 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 ha, Roger, I didn't expect you to be arrested too, it's really useless, ha 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 ha, Golden Lion said with a loud laugh. The corner of Roger's mouth twitched, he looked at Golden Lion and said, it seems that you are not qualified to say anything about me. It turned out to be a counter-calculation, or it was snatched from Impel Down. HMPH, Lousy was careless for a while, and Corazon succeeded. Otherwise, with Lousy's lion fruit. Golden Lion snorted coldly and said proudly. How about with your lion fruit? Didera and Ah Fei put their arms around Golden Lion and asked with half smiles. In front of the two of them, one can fly and the other can travel through space. The Golden Lion's lion fruit is no different from the normal devil fruit. Golden Lion's face darkened, and he was dragged away obediently by two big men. Hiss. Is this still the Admiral of the Sea? He's about to be turned into a little white rabbit, the red-haired Shanks gasped. Advertisement Golden Lion seemed to hear it, turned his head and said viciously, "You don't need to be complacent, just live in this empire for a few days and you will know that this country is simply a gathering place for a group of monsters." In the Empire, the Golden Lion was still proud, but after going through the super electromagnetic gun, tens of billions of detonating symbols, and the Devil's control spell. After a series of tortures, he obediently realized his status, and became a lift obediently. Hearing Golden Lion's words, Roger and Rayleigh looked at each other, swallowed involuntarily. Even the man who was as proud as a lion said that this place is a gathering place for monsters. Could there really be any monsters? Hey, Kikyo, do you want to compare and see if your bow and arrow shot farther, or my electromagnetic gun? Masaka Makoto said excitedly, holding a game coin in his hand. Okay. Kikyo smiled slightly and agreed to the invitation. Boom. A game currency entwined with lightning and a bow and arrow entwined with spiritual power instantly opened a trench in the sea. It was hard to see with the naked eye, and they shot in a straight line. In the end, an astonishing explosion occurred somewhere. Roger could feel the biting cold wind tens of thousands of meters away. Hey, Uchiha Itachi, I lost to your flame last time, do you want to compete again this time? Natsu was on the shore, looking at Uchiha Itachi with a look of reluctance. How could his devil's fire be inferior to the flames shot out of his eyes? Good, just use this sea stone as an experiment. Uchiha Itachi's eyes turned into Mangekyo Sharingan, turned continuously, and quickly threw two sets of sea stone chains into the sky, and in an instant, the temperature rose sharply. Devil's Roar. Amaterasu. It was so cool that the flame rushed to the sky in an instant. The flame of the devil, the flame of pure black, and the fire of Amaterasu, burned blazingly on the sea stone chains of the devil. Hey, I lost again. How high is your Amaterasu fire? I can't even feel how high it is, Natsu said, looking at the sea stone chain in the sky unconvinced. His flame can even burn magma, but it is not as good as that Amaterasu fire. Who knows? 3.7. Uchiha Itachi smiled. Even he himself didn't know why his Amaterasu fire was so destructive. Gulu. Bullet Rayleigh and the other swallowed, and looked at Roger with dull eyes. Captain Roger Golden Lion seems to be right. The guys here are a bunch of monsters. Even a sea stone can be destroyed, and there is a disappointed expression on his face. What kind of pervert is that Sakura-haired boy? It's over, we will definitely be caught as captives, and maybe we won't be able to escape for the rest of our lives, said the clown Buggy with tears streaming down his face. He obviously still has 10 treasure maps that he hasn't found yet, so how could he be locked up here? I'm afraid. It really fell this time, Roger said dryly. Chapter 125 Roger is a big beauty? Fifth more? Advertisement Chapter 125 Roger is a beautiful woman? In just a few seconds, Roger saw a few strong men who were not weaker than him, and their abilities were extremely strange. Reach out and touch a place, and that place will explode with demons. A female demon who can control people's hearts with just a word. Constantly flickering in space, surrounded by the beautiful girl who fired the super electromagnetic gun. The whole body is made of wood iron body, a puppet that can be as light as a swallow. Guys with weird abilities like this, after Corazon came back, all surrounded this island, and the pressure emitted by gathering together made it impossible for normal people to stand up. By the way, Orochimaru, show that guy and try to see if he can heal his injury. Corazon's figure slowly came down from the sky, pointed to Roger, and said to Orochimaru. Roger froze for a moment, looked at Corazon in surprise, then his expression changed, and he looked at Orochimaru who appeared beside him with a cold expression, licking him. Ho ho ho, honorable king, apart from being seriously ill, this guy's body is already riddled with holes. If things go on like this, he will have at most 3 months to live. Orochimaru smiled hoarsely, and then said, but as long as you cooperate with me for a period of treatment, his injury can basically be cured. 3 months? Corazon couldn't help laughing. Orochimaru really underestimated the vitality of people in this world, and also underestimated the vitality of Roger. According to him, with Roger's will, he can live for at least 3 years. Okay, then I'll hand him over to you, Corazon said with a smile. Ho ho ho, don't worry, the king, Orochimaru smiled hoarsely, and then under Roger's desperate struggle, he shot 2 big snakes from his sleeve, wrapping Roger's body tightly. Immediately afterwards, Accelerator appeared after a gust of wind, pressed his palm on Roger's body, and Vector controlled his blood, making him completely lose his resistance. That idiot, why resist when people want to treat you? Fuli cursed inwardly. He didn't think Corazon was lying to him. Now that they are all prisoners, there is no benefit in lying to them. Although I don't know why Corazon wants to treat Roger, it is undoubtedly good news. Wait, Corazon, why are you helping me? You are the family member who killed my companion and cured me, and I will be your enemy. Roger struggled desperately a few times and shouted loudly. Golden Lion also looked at Corazon with a dark face. Why are they all pirates and captives, but he has become a robot elevator, and Roger will be healed and released. Well, I still admire you very much, and I want to see what kind of deeds you can do. Corazon folded his arms and said proudly. So I let you go and allow you to take risks in this king's sea. If you really get the big secret treasure one day, you can dedicate it to this king. My king. Speaking as a king, this guy is serious. Rayleigh shrank his pupils and looked at Corazon in shock. No matter how you put it, this is too arrogant to describe the sea as his, and to let an enemy go. If it is Rayleigh, when the enemy is caught, even if Roger disagrees, he will eradicate the enemy, so as to ensure that the other party will not come to retaliate, but Cora. Advertisement. This sea area is free, it is not anyone's territory. Woo woo woo. Roger's eyes widened, and he refuted Corazon loudly, but Accelerator frowned impatiently, and directly stuffed a stone into Roger's mouth. You scumbag, dared to call Zunwang by his name. If Zunwang didn't keep you, I'll kill you right now. Ho ho ho, Accelerator, don't be so angry, come and help me treat this guy later. Orochimaru smiled hoarsely, and what he said made Roger's eyes widen for a moment. Woo woo woo. Roger shook his head, struggling desperately. Although he didn't know who Fang Accelerator was, this guy didn't look like someone easy to mess with. Just now he annoyed his colleagues in the local area, and this guy would definitely take revenge on him. In this way, Roger was dragged to the door of a laboratory under the pity eyes of Golden Lion and others. Hiss. Golden Lion gasped, flew over and patted Rayleigh on the shoulder, and said with pity in his eyes, your captain is going to be in trouble. Rayleigh's eyes suddenly became serious, asked anxiously, is there any danger? Yo, beauty. Golden Lion patted Rayleigh's shoulder silently, and then said, you will find out soon, 340. The beautiful woman glanced at Rayleigh wanting to cry without tears, then kicked the clown buggy who was leaning over and flew away, grabbed Rayleigh's shoulder and said, Rayleigh, don't you even know me? Rayleigh frowned and scolded, he dared to be so presumptuous in other people's territory. Then Rayleigh walked up to the beauty politely, saying, Rayleigh was bored at the port, but under the guard of Naz and others, he dared not take a step. What? Phew. Rayleigh breathed a sigh of relief, then looked at Golden Lion suspiciously and asked, since those guys won't disobey Corazon's orders, why do you say my captain is going to be in trouble? Miss, what is your business here? Apart from them, there was no one else on this pier, and Rayleigh could only think that this beautiful woman came to find them. It's too dangerous. Those guys don't know what medicine they took. They are loyal to Corazon. It is impossible to disobey Corazon's orders. When he said this, Golden Lion's tone was full of envy. For a moment, everyone in the Roger Pirates pricked up their ears. Could this be Rayleigh's wife? While the others were listening carefully, Rayleigh looked at the beauty in surprise. Then his eyes almost popped out, his whole body trembled, with an unbelievable expression on his face. He stretched out his fingers tremblingly and pointed at the beauty. If he had such a group of subordinates, the world would have been named Jin long ago. Clown Buggy's eyes lit up, and his saliva was about to flow out. He looked salivatingly at a long, straight black beauty wrapped in a bath towel and with a vacuum inside. Stop being nympho. Roger. Chapter 126 The Arrival of the Ninja Legion, 6th Change. Advertisement Chapter 126 The Arrival of the Ninja Legion, 6th Change. Watching the collapsed Roger Pirates leave, Corazon had a dumbfounding look on his face. Orochimaru and Accelerator really know how to play. They forcibly transformed Roger's body with high technology. Although the body is not sick, but the future One Piece is a woman. Corazon couldn't help laughing at the thought. Slightly calming down, Corazon was silently dismissed as Ace Yuan, who had not appeared and had already perished for a few minutes. I'm afraid Ace is born, and Roger is also a mother. Adore. Just when Corazon was full of smiles, Ju's figure emerged from the ground, half kneeling on the ground, and said respectfully, Your Majesty, the world government sent someone to send a message, saying that they are inviting you to the world government in the near future, and the world summit will be launched there in advance. Let you go to participate in it. Do you need your subordinates to go down and teach them a lesson? Corazon, the lord of the empire that ruled the continent, actually asked their king to attend a meeting of kings from all over the world. If Corazon hadn't been consulted, he would definitely have planned to go to the world government to teach those nobles a lesson. World Summit, thank goodness they figured it out. Corazon withdrew his gaze and smiled disdainfully. Those old guys were in a hurry, and they could even think of things like World Summit. Some time ago, I always wanted to ask him to go back and continue to be celestial dragons. He didn't work hard just to be those trash. Apart from this matter, what else is there? Corazon asked indifferently when he saw that absolutely hadn't left. Your Majesty, let's talk about Nine Snake Island. Said very respectfully. Nine Snake Island, Boa Hancock, what's wrong with her? Corazon raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise. It's the information my subordinates heard in naval headquarters, that the world government will send Murlocs to take Boa Hancock back as a hostage, but this time Marine refused, so the world government and the Fishmen Island jointly took action. The subordinate originally planned to inform Tiandao Pain to pass through them and eliminate the enemy in the past, but you were back at this time. Ju said respectfully. Corazon's eyes turned cold. Those guys are not over yet. Again and again, the last time they took Doflamingo away, this time they actually targeted his woman. If it doesn't work this time, will Momosagi's family be on the lookout? Those guys from naval headquarters are smart, otherwise I won't be in such a good mood this time, Corazon said with a cold snort. Ju hesitated for a while and said, Your Majesty, I found out that those guys from naval headquarters deliberately passed this information to my subordinates, and after passing this information, the spores that my subordinates put on them have been wiped out. Yeah. Corazon nodded slightly. It is not surprising that naval headquarters found out that the information was leaked out twice and 3 times, but this time, he also got the favor of those guys. Be gentler next time, and treat Kong's area by the way. I know the matter, you go and inform the Xiao Xiao organization and the people of Academy City. This time they dispatched, and brought 100,000 clone army along with them, and wiped out the Murlocs from the Fishman Island for me first, Corazon said coldly. He didn't plan to play anymore. This time, while going to the Fishman Island, he had to make the world government pay the price. Yes. There was a hint of joy on Ju's face, and after a respectful reply, he walked out step by step. He had disliked those guys from the world government a long time ago, and this time, he must make them pay the price. Looking at Ju Li's figure, Corazon put his consciousness into his mind. There must be two organizations guarding the empire, otherwise the naval headquarters, the prisoners, the big pirates, and the thugs from those countries who were forcibly suppressed by him will definitely make trouble at that time. Therefore, it is imminent for another S-level force to come again, and it just so happens that he also has this opportunity. I wonder who it will be this time, Corazon muttered to himself, and then without hesitation, he used the S-level forces that could be summoned by 10 million people. Advertisement, host subjects have reached 10 million, and they have the opportunity to be summoned by S-level powers. They're currently being screened for the host. Sifting. The screening is over, aiming for the world of Hokage. The 5 shadow forces are being summoned. 5th Hokage, Tsunade. 5th Kazekage, Gaara, strength received. 4th Raikage, I. 3rd Tsuchikage, 2 Scales Onoki, 5th Mizukage, Terumi Mei. The power of belonging is coming. Konoha Village. Sand Shinobi Village, Cloud Shinobi Village, Iwagakure. Mist Ninja Village. Because the summoning power is relatively large, the time is 10 seconds. 8. T. FK. The system is wild enough. Corazon looked at the summoned character, dumbfounded. This is probably the biggest summon he has ever done, right? 5 cages, as well as the forces they belong to, no matter how you say it, it will not be. It seems that it is. Corazon stroked his chin and pondered. After all, Gokage's strength is at the level of the Akatsuki organization. Except for Konoha Village, the strength of the other ninja villages is not very strong. Toket. Corazon took a closer look at the summoned person. There is Uzumaki Naruto, but the strength is not as strong as in the future. It seems that the reputation and the strength do not match up. Corazon calmed down. It seemed that he really thought too much about the 5 cages. The strength span of the Hokage world is relatively large. In the future, Uchiha Madara will not be able to beat the 5 cages without the 6 paths Madara. Only those with that strength can be rated as SS. Like the 5 cages, it is estimated, well, good, that Accelerator and one person on one side can hang and beat them. In the case of the Akatsuki organization joining forces, I am afraid they are not opponents. Thinking about it this way, the only place worthy of praise is probably the 5 ninja villages. By the way, the system, what's the situation with Gaara? Corazon reacted and asked doubtfully. Gaara has been summoned as a Jinchuriki. How can another Gaara be summoned? Is it possible to be a clone? Reporting to the host, Gaara was summoned and received Gaara from the Ninja World War period, and the body still contains one tail Shozuru, which is equivalent to the fusion of 2 characters from different periods. The system's mechanical voice said Gong. So, Corazon nodded knowingly, then looked outside. In the 5 directions of the empire, 5 different styles of buildings rose from the ground, and the terrain of the Hokage world was also summoned, and the population soared instantly. Chapter 127 Tsuchikage Onoki, who is not old with a sword, 7th more. Advertisement Chapter 127 Tsuchikage Onoki, who is not old with a sword, 7th more. This is really unbelievable. There are several powerful auras. Who did the king call here? Inuyasha looked at the buildings in surprise. The scene that is almost the same as the Sengoku period, shouldn't it be from your side? Pluton Mardo asked. No, this building is a little more advanced than our era, and we have never heard of other powerful forces in our world. King Do-Ya shook his head and said. In his world, apart from monsters, only witches and mages could see them clearly. Ho ho ho, don't guess, it's our people. I didn't expect to call them over. This is interesting. Orochimaru smiled hoarsely, with a look of anticipation on his face. People from your side? Natsu became interested in an instant. In the past few days, he has also seen the weirdness of ninjutsu, so he is not interested in ninjutsu. When he heard Orochimaru's words, he couldn't help asking, are they strong? Ho ho ho, you should be better than me, Orochimaru said with a hoarse smile. When he saw the building at first glance, Orochimaru had already recognized it. This is the famous 5 Great Ninja Village, one of the most powerful forces in the Hokage world. After all, the 5 Great Ninja Villages have come, and with 5 shadows, they are much stronger than him. Naz became interested as soon as he heard it, and stared at the 5 ninja villages with wide eyes, wondering if they had mastered the powerful flame. He wanted to taste it very much. Swish swish swish. When the 5 ninja villages completely descended, figures shot out from the 5 ninja villages in an instant, and quickly gathered towards the center of the empire. This speed is much weaker than Orochimaru. Are they really as strong as you said? Natsu asked disappointed when he saw the ninja's speed. This speed is not even half of Orochimaru's. Ho ho ho, look at those people, Orochimaru said with a hoarse smile, pointing at the 5 ninjas. Tsunade stepped on the ground with a powerful force that crushed the ground, but the speed was also extremely fast, rushing to Orochimaru in the blink of an eye. Raikage Eye is surrounded by Thunder Attribute Chakra, whose speed is comparable to thunder and lightning. Tsuchikage Onogi flew in midair, as if his body had no weight. He flew over at an extremely fast speed. The same is true for Gaara and Terumi Mei, who headed towards the center of the empire at the forefront. It's a bit worth seeing. Naz nodded excitedly, he smashed his fists, and the gushing flames burned his body. He couldn't help but want to fight these guys. That Corazon, how did it create so many ninjas out of thin air, and there is another one that can fly? Golden Lion manipulated the rise and fall of the island, and looked at those buildings in puzzlement. Just now, his eyes were bigger than copper bells, but he couldn't see the reason clearly. Seeing Onoki flying in the sky now, he frowned slightly and smashed an island over. B**************, D. What are you doing? The telescope in Didara's eyes turned, and a white lovebird flew into the sky in an instant, looking at Golden Lion coldly and questioning. This is really unforgivable. As a prisoner, I don't have any self-consciousness at all. Senior Didara, or we'll tear off one of his legs. Ah-Fei appeared in the Uzumaki-like space, looking at Golden Lion and said. Golden Lion laughed twice, and said, I'm sorry, it's hard to avoid some mistakes in promoting the ability for such a long time. Advertisement. Didara snorted coldly and said, don't think I don't know what you're up to, just this once, if I find out you're up to no good, I'll show you my art. Who wants to see your terrifying art? Golden Lion complained inwardly. These days Didara looked at him, and he also saw Didara's art, that is simply a destructive maniac, even though it exploded towards the sea, hundreds of sea kings were still knocked out. He said that that kind of terrorist weapon is art, and he didn't agree with it. BGAD, Didara snorted coldly when he heard what Golden Lion said, and he wasn't worried about Onoki at all. That stinky old man, he was really unlucky. He was sent to the island when he came up. Didara looked at Onoki and muttered to himself. Seeing that Didara didn't move, Golden Lion's eyes widened, and he looked at Onoki in surprise. Could it be that the guy who looks at least 78 years old and may burp at any time can block his island? You must know that there are still thousands of merchants on the island. If you want to block the island without hurting them, Golden Lion feels that there is no one else except the heavenly Dao Pain who can control gravity. This is, looking at the island thrown in front of him, Onoki's eyes were fixed, the powerful chakra flowing in his body. He pinched a few seals quickly, and touched the surface of the island with both hands. Boom. The moment Onoki's hands touched the island, he took a deep breath. Waste. My old waste. It seems that I was overthinking. No matter how powerful the forces created out of thin air are, there is no one who can stop Lousy Island. Golden Lion muttered to himself, and when he was about to make a move, Onoki roared. Earth-style ultralight heavy rock technique, boom. The island that was falling in a straight line suddenly stopped for a moment, and then slowed down at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this moment, an island that was originally falling was slowly descending like a hot air balloon. Ho ho ho, that old man Onogi actually has this kind of strength, after all he is still young, Orochimaru said with a hoarse smile. Seeing this scene, Golden Lion's eyes almost popped out. That guy who he thought could belch at any time, unexpectedly burst out with such strength. Corazon, how did you create so many powerful people out of thin air? Golden Lion had an incredible thought in his heart, and then silently hid his other thoughts in his heart. With these powerhouses and Corazon's unfathomable methods, he dared not have other thoughts. Moreover, with Corazon's strength, it might be possible to unify the entire world. Even if he escapes by then, the world may not have a place for him to hide. Standing on the top of the Golden Palace, Corazon saw such a scene, and the corners of his mouth could not help but twitch slightly. Although Five Shadows might not be as powerful as Accelerator, but with that weird and unpredictable method, if people who don't know him come to fight, they may suffer a hidden loss. I really don't know if the world government will frighten the shit out of it when facing these guys. Corazon was full of malicious thoughts in his heart. Chapter 128 Tell your king to get out. First, advertisement. Chapter 128 Tell your king to get out. First update. Ho ho ho, Tsunade, I didn't expect that we would have the opportunity to fight side by side. This is really nostalgic. Sitting on the edge of the golden boat, Orochimaru smiled hoarsely, with a look of nostalgia on his face. Orochimaru, don't lean over. Tsunade looked at Orochimaru with a cold face. I haven't seen Orochimaru for such a long time, and the habit of licking people still hasn't changed. 5th Mizukage Terumi Mei, this time the battle is under 10,000 meters of water, please give me your advice, Kisame said with a shark-like smile. Ninja Sword 7. Are you stupid? Even if I'm Mizukage, it's not easy to fight at a depth of 10,000 meters underwater. You'll have to watch those monsters then. Terumi Mei said depressedly. He recognized that all the Ninja Sword 7 were summoned to this world, but Terumi Mei's face turned dark when he thought of Chongjuro and Ghost Moon grabbing the double sword flounder. Monsters. Are you referring to us? Accelerator asked calmly. Although he is a little strong, but in the Empire where the strong are like clouds, he is not too strong. Ho ho ho, Accelerator, you and Nazu, the Duya King, can already be called monsters, Orochimaru licked his lips and said. Although Do-Ya Wong is not particularly strong, his 3 swords made Orochimaru extremely fanatical. In particular, the natural teeth that can resurrect people have been researched by Orochimaru for a long time. Hey, why are you Hokage but not popular? Natsu flew in the air, looking at Tsunade and muttering. The other 4 shadows, whether it is Raikage's thunder or Tsuchikage's soil, are very good at mastering, so he is still eager to eat the flames created by Hokage. In the end, it was learned that Tsunade didn't know fire-type ninjutsu at all, so he couldn't help but feel a little depressed. Who said that Hokage must master fire style? Tsunade said with a dark face. Natsu pestered her all the way, which made Tsunade break down a bit. Not only does she not know fire style ninjutsu, her grandpa Senju Hashirama, her second grandpa Senju Tobarama, fourth Hokage Namikaze Minato, and his fifth Hokage don't know fire-style ninjutsu, but third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen knows it, and that's because of Sarutobi Hiruzen uses 5 types of ninjutsu. After all, what are you doing here? Tsunade looked speechlessly at Fighting Tooth King, the demon from the Gate of Hades, and Misaka Makoto Shokuhou Masaki and others. The king clearly asked them to guard the empire. It's 10,000 meters below the water, we want to see it too. Shokuhou Masaki snorted, then smiled, and generously squeezed Corazon's shoulders. Really, with so many people, how can we get down? While playing and chatting with everyone, the golden boat was brought by the gravity of Tiandao Pain extremely fast, and it arrived at the Red 10 continent in just 10 hours. Boom! Naz smashed his fists excitedly, his hands were burning with flames, and he said with a fighting spirit, Your Majesty, let me go, teach those guys a lesson. The corner of Corazon's mouth curled up, but Naz was not the only one. Fang Accelerator, Fighting Tooth King, and Tiandao Pain all had expressions ready to move. To be targeted by so many powerful people, world government may be removed this time.
Advertisement. Wait, let's go underwater first. Corazon shook his head and said. The base camp of the world government is on the red line, and you can't run if you want to, but the Fishman Island is different. Although they all live on that island, when danger comes, the entire Tianai is their shelter. Once they heard the sound of fighting on the red line, it is not impossible to give up the Fishman Island in fear and flee to the depths of the sea. Yes, everyone respectfully responded. Then Misaka Makoto looked at the sea in doubt, and said, Your Majesty, how can we get into the water with a current of tens of thousands of meters? Although they are all very strong, but in terms of physical fitness, she is the same as Shokuhou Masaki, who has the physical fitness of ordinary people, especially Shokuhou Masaki, who is not even as good as ordinary people. It is estimated that it will take less than 2 minutes to reach the sea and float to the surface of the sea. This one. Corazon smiled slightly, and looked at Pluton Mardo. At this time his demon spell Thorn came in handy. Ask for flowers. Pluton Mardo put his hand on the sea, and in an instant, countless vines covered the golden ship, forcibly expanding the golden ship dozens of times. Almost there, disciple. Corazon nodded, and with a loud bang, the golden ship plunged directly into the sea. Heavenly Dao Pain's repulsive force is continuously displayed, isolating the sea water from the hull, and the kinetic energy of the sea current that can be controlled by one side, looks like the sea god's ship driving in the water from a distance. After a long period of darkness, Corazon finally saw the so-called the Fishman Island, and his gaze turned slightly cold. This the Fishman Island, made trouble for him twice and 3 times, especially the last time, Akainu was about to be killed by him, and he was rescued by this Murloc. 0. Wow. Mermaid. Naz looked excitedly at the mermaids drying their tails on the shore, widened their eyes curiously, and kept looking at the beautiful scenery around them. Don't be so worthless, knock this place down, and come whenever you want. Corazon said with a smile. Naz nodded excitedly, and then a crimson light appeared in his eyes. The demon was killed by his heart, and when he heard the killing, he couldn't help but feel the desire in his heart. Water-style water dragon bomb technique. Standing at the bow of the boat, Terumi Mei looked at the huge bubbles enveloping the Fishman Island, quickly pinched a few seals, and spit out a stream of water from her mouth. Roar. The water flow converged into the shape of a dragon, roaring and rushed towards the huge bubble, directly poking a hole out of the bubble. Accompanied by the violent water flow, the golden ship controlled by Tiandao Pain flew over the Fishman Island. The mermaids and murlocs below looked at this golden ship in amazement, and some even wanted to fly up to have a look. As an enemy of our empire, how dare you be so leisurely? Naz laughed excitedly, demon patterns spread across his face, violent flames burned on his body, and the surrounding temperature soared to an extreme in an instant, and the water was burned to the ground. My king Corazon is coming, hurry up and get your king out. Chapter 129. The Fishman Island in Despair, Second More. Advertisement. Chapter 129. The Fishman Island in Despair, Second Update. Naz's voice was like the roar of a demon, but with a crazy and chilling murderous aura, it instantly spread throughout the Fishman Island. The Murloc, whose body was originally wrapped in bubbles and swam towards the sky quickly, turned his eyes white and floated in midair as if struck by a thunderbolt from the blue sky. The Murlocs around could barely resist the stronger ones, while the weaker Murlocs were frightened and fainted almost instantly. Corazon smiled slightly, raised the purple feather coat he was wearing, jumped off the golden boat, and walked towards the center of the Fishman Island without haste. At the same time, Naz's voice spread to the Murloc palace, instantly causing panic in the palace. Yes, it is Corazon, the king of the empire, and he has come to seek revenge. A Murloc soldier with a face full of 430 was terrified, and after speaking tremblingly, he screamed and fled quickly to the outside of the Fishman Island without even bothering to hold his weapon. The king of the empire, Corazon, is something that even the naval headquarters dare not fight against. Upon hearing Corazon's name, countless soldiers were so frightened that their legs limp and trembled, and some even fell to their knees in despair. Hurry up, run away, or we'll all die here. A Murloc roared in fear, and fled away from the Fishman Island, rolling and crawling. Don't panic, calm down, don't run away, since Corazon is here, he won't let us escape, only when we calm down can we think of a way. Jinbei shouted anxiously. However, people's hearts were already in confusion at this time. Facing Corazon, these Murlocs who had only heard of Corazon's legend couldn't resist at all. Hurry up and escape, as long as you escape from the Fishman Island, that guy will definitely not be able to catch up with us. Seeing that the border of the Fishman Island was approaching, a Murloc shouted in surprise. Although the ocean beyond the Fishman Island is dark, but at this time these Murlocs don't care so much, and continue to stay on the Fishman Island, there are only 10 dead ends. I still want to run, I really don't know how high the sky is. The demon Liang Yuishan Sarah's eyes turned cold, and he stretched out his white palm, and said coldly. I order you, stop your steps and kill yourself. In an instant, under the shocked gazes of thousands of mermaids, a large part of those Murlocs who were about to escape from the Fishman Island stopped in their tracks, raised their palms to pinch their own necks with dull eyes. And the guy who escaped from the ocean didn't escape very far, and saw the seawater turbulent. Water style 1000 food dumplings. Water style water severing wave. Water style water burst. The ghost lamp is full of the moon, and the body of the ghost lamp Shuiyu appears in the water, pinching the seal with his fingers, and in an instant, the violent water flow is comparable to a high-pressure water gun, attacking the Murlocs. What is this? Why can the water move? The Murlocs looked at the surrounding sea water, feeling extremely strange, and couldn't help shouting in horror. Why does the current hinder us from moving forward? Has the sea abandoned us? Help! Save me, these currents are entangled in me. Amidst the screams of the Murlocs, the escaped Murlocs were either entangled in the water and suffocated to death, or were attacked to death by water-style ninjutsu. Advertisement. Is it so troublesome to kill these guys? Let me do it. Fourth Raikage let out a low growl, and tore off the clothes on his body, crackling and flickering lightning arcs on his body, which looked extremely terrifying. Those two guys won't be electrocuted, will they? Kakuzu muttered something, glanced slightly at the ghost lantern full moon and ghost lantern water moon outside the water, and strode to the edge of the current outside the Fishman Island. Only Fourth Raikage and Kakuzu, as long as the ninja who knows lightning-style ninjutsu, stepped forward one after another, even Corazon, with a look of great interest, touched his fingers into the sea outside. Lightning-style reflow explosion. Lightning-style false darkness. Lightning-style emotion wave. Thunder saber technique. Lyman. In an instant, the substance formed by the lightning illuminated the dark seabed, and the violent lightning spread wildly, like blue lines extending in the ground. Not only the fleeing Murlocs, but even the sea kings who were originally in the deep sea were all charred by the electric shock in an instant, and gradually floated up. Quote exclamation mark quote. The Murloc, who hadn't had time to escape in the distance, saw this scene so frightened that he almost burst out of his wits, gasped, and knelt down tremblingly on the ground, not even daring to lift his head. If they were the ones running away just now. Thinking of this, the hearts of many Murlocs were about to break, and they didn't even dare to resist. Tsuchikage Onagi's lightning style is also well mastered. Corazon retracted his index finger and said with a smile. The strongest man he summoned this time is Tsuchikage Onoki. Corazon was a little confused at first, but he understood when he thought of Onijutsu's ninjutsu. Dust Escape Primary Realm Stripping Technique, developed by Second Tsuchikage, is a kind of blood successor elimination that surpasses the blood successor limit. Hazard, Hokage is arguably one of the top in the world. When in use, it can form a cube or cone enchantment in the hand and launch it towards the opponent, which can separate the opponent into an atomic state and be wiped out. When Corazon and others blocked the entire the Fishman Island. In the center of the palace, Neptune, king of the Fishman Island Dragon Palace Kingdom, was looking at the rioting Murlocs outside with a painful face. Jinbei, what do you think we should do now? Gritting his teeth tightly, Neptune looked nervously at Jinbei 2.3. Murloc Tiger had died in the last battle, and now he can only count on Jinbei, the current number 1 Murloc. Up. Your Majesty, we'd better ask the world government for help, otherwise, the Fishman Island will really be destroyed. Jinbei, who had several burnt patches on his body, said nervously. Although their Murlocs have obtained the right of residence on the ground by helping the world government. But only a few hundred mermaids are qualified to go up, and they are still treated as playthings by those nobles, and their base camp is still on the Fishman Island. Once something happens to the Fishman Island, I am afraid that the Murlocs will have no hope. World government. Neptune's eyes lit up. That's right, world government, haven't they been planning to eradicate Corazon? Now the 10,000 meters under the sea is just their chance. Chapter 130 Destroy Murloc Street, Conquer, 3rd update. Advertisement. Chapter 130 Destroy Murloc Street, Conquer, 3rd update. Your Majesty, I think we should have a good discussion with Corazon. Otherwise, even if the world government comes to send people to support, the battle will start on our the Fishman Island. Princess Otahime said worriedly. At the beginning, she persuaded Neptune not to make enemies of those powerful people because of the opportunity to go ashore. But the Murlocs have lived in the ocean for hundreds of years, and when they heard about the opportunity to go ashore, they were overwhelmed with excitement and joy, and didn't listen at all. And as Corazon's strength grows day by day, the Murlocs also fell into a panic, but they have no good solution, they can only follow the world government all the way to the dark. No chance. Neptune gritted his teeth and said, I heard that the Fur tribe just offended Corazon, and only a few children were killed. Naval headquarters call. Princess Otahime sighed silently, watching Neptune call the phone. Moses, I'm Kong, what's the matter? Kong's 16 voice came from the phone. Marshal Kong is me, King Neptune of the Fishman Island. Something bad happened. Corazon came to attack our country. Now we can't stand it anymore. Please hurry up and send someone over to help. Neptune said anxiously. Kong. Crack. With a crisp sound, a beeping blind tone came from the phone bug. Neptune's heart sank suddenly. With Kong's strength, he would never accidentally hang up the phone. Shaking his head fiercely, Neptune quickly called a few more times, but this time, no one answered at all. At the same time, Kong shouted anxiously, Garp, as soon as someone calls you, just say you went to East Blue to find your wife. Sengoku, get the hell out of me on the Grand Line right now. Kizaru, you, stay here. Kizaru, who was full of anticipation, suddenly turned dark, and almost couldn't hold back his curse. Why Garp and Sengoku can run away, why the hell should he stay in naval headquarters? Even if he ate the shining fruit, he can't bully people like this, right? Marshal Kong, what do you mean? Sengoku frowned and asked Kong. Kong sighed, stood up and looked in the direction of the world government, and said in a deep voice after a while. Marine can't stand such a big torment anymore, and I have no reason to let the world government watch and let you die. If there is a chance, let's talk about it at that time. Facing Corazon's successive defeats, Kong already knew that Marine's morale was not as good as before, and when the world government heard the news, they would definitely send them to support them. And when this time passes, isn't it equivalent to being cannon fodder? Sengoku sighed silently, nodded, grabbed Marine's coat and walked out the door. Indeed, in order to protect those world nobles, the world government will definitely treat them as cannon fodder. I hope that those world government officials will make some sacrifices after seeing it this time, otherwise. If the world government doesn't join forces with their marine, facing Corazon, I'm afraid there is really no hope. At the same time, Neptune in the Fish-Man Island was completely desperate, and he knelt on the ground with regret, knowing that he should not have made such a big sacrifice for the land city promised by the world government. Advertisement. Well, Princess Otahime sighed silently, and walked out the door with a sad face. She could only hope that Corazon would be merciful and let them go the Fish-Man Island once. My lord, it's been 10 minutes, and the king hasn't come out yet, so annoying, how about I show them my art? Deidara stood on top of a house board, holding a small white clay model in his hand and said. It's impolite to make people wait. I hate waiting for others, and I hate being waited for. I really should kill them. Scorpion said in a cold voice. Tsunade frowned, persuading. Wait a little longer, maybe it will come out soon. I should have come out a long time ago. Now I should be studying escape, right? Accelerator put his hands in his pockets and said calmly. Looking at the impatient eyes of the majority, Corazon nodded indifferently, pointed to a street in the distance and said. Masters, the people on that street, kill them. Dare to make him wait so long, Corazon has long been a little impatient. If he hadn't had a good impression of the mermaid in the Fishman Island, he would have destroyed it with a divine raid in the previous 5 minutes. Your Majesty, you can wait a little longer. Tsunade wanted to persuade something, but seeing Corazon's gaze, he still took a deep breath and closed his mouth. The street. Deidara's eyes became excited all of a sudden. He jumped slightly, stood on top of the white lovebird and flew over quickly. Not one left. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the scorpion, and the clothes on the body were thrown away, revealing the body made of wood. At the same time, the chest was opened, and countless chakra lines shot out from it. Performance with 100 machines. 087. Don't go there. As soon as Orochimaru stretched out his hand, he blocked the 100,000 clone legion that was about to move. 5 shadows and accelerator and other superpowers all went up. Maybe that very island would be completely destroyed. Let these clone legions go up. I'm afraid it will take a moment will be wiped out. Licking his lips slightly, Orochimaru opened his mouth wide, and thousands of lion majesty gushed out from it. The formation of 10,000 snakes. It hurts. Thunder bombs me. Earth-style Earth-shore return. Boil-style phosphating melting point. Gokage shot at the same time, together with members of the Akatsuki organization, Masaka Makoto and Shokuho Masaki, instantly countless energies erupted in that street, and the powerful force destroyed everything. A flame-colored explosion swept everything around, whether it was houses or land, everything was destroyed in an instant, and the Murlocs among them completely lost consciousness before they could react. Murloc Street, the worst street on the Fishman Island. A cold light flashed in Corazon's eyes, and he flew high into the air. Hot flames were burning on the surface of his body. Seen from below, he looked like a burning sun. My lords, end all resistance forces to me. Chapter 131 The Arrival of the Whitebeard Pirates 4th. Advertisement. Chapter 131 The Arrival of the Whitebeard Pirates 4th. Wait, King of the Empire, please be merciful. Just when the crowd and the clone army were about to fight, there was a pleading voice from a distance, and at the same time, a nimble mermaid swam towards this side quickly. This is Princess Otahime. Corazon raised his brows, and silently applied the power of vector control to himself, reflecting all the substances being investigated. Princess Otahime is almost the same as Roger, they are both people with super observation haki, maybe Princess Otahime is even better, able to see people's hearts clearly, facing this woman. Corazon didn't want his thoughts to be probed. Your Majesty Corazon, please be merciful, we, the Fishman Island, are willing to join your empire, please let the Fishman Island go. Princess Otahime fell to her knees on the ground with a plop, begging bitterly. Princess Otahime. Seeing this scene, the mermaids around rushed over anxiously, and also knelt down on the ground, looking at Corazon with pleading eyes. These guys dared to be an enemy of the king, and now they kneel down to beg for mercy. They really have no morals at all. Guixi said with a sneer. He is not bad for mermaids, but for murlocs, he doesn't like him at all. Your Majesty Corazon, I am the #1 beauty in the Fishman Island, and I am willing to be your concubine, please let the Fishman Island go. Suddenly, a handsome mermaid hugged Corazon's thigh, bitterly begged. In an instant, Kisame and the others stopped their movements, waiting respectfully for Corazon's instructions. Although they didn't want to admit it, Zunwang might give up destroying the Fishman Island for the sake of Pomeranian's smile. Corazon's face turned dark. Is he like this in front of his courtiers? The corners of the mouth couldn't help twitching slightly. Then Corazon lifted the mermaid's chin, looked at it carefully, and smiled slightly. Just when the mermaid was hopeful, Corazon put his index finger on her head and pushed her away up. Since your king has repeatedly troubled me after becoming a king, you should know that this is no longer a battle, but a war. The war will not stop because of a woman. After Corazon finished speaking with a smile, looking at the desperate faces of many mermaids, he waved his arm lightly. My lords, suppress the Fishman Island, bring back the mermaids, use the murlocs as coolies, and keep this island as a resort. The scene of the Fishman Island is still very beautiful. Maybe I can make a space travel device in the future, so it is not bad to stay as a separate courtyard. Yes. Hearing Corazon's words, Orochimaru was on the same side. Natsu and the others showed excitement on their faces. They responded respectfully, and then rushed towards the murlocs with a sneer. How could a mere trick of beauty be able to seduce Zunwang? Everyone laughed in their hearts. However, Corazon looked at Princess Otahime, and began to ponder in his heart. He has little interest in married women, but Princess Shirahoshi, the daughter of the future Princess Otahime, does interest Corazon. Mermaid Princess is one of the 3 ancient weapons. Poseidon. The power to control Sea Kings. Corazon doesn't like it, but I heard that Princess Shirahoshi is famous in the world of pirates for her beauty. Even the thief female emperor sighed that she was not as good as she was, the stunner who stood at the top of the mermaid clan. Although the body size is a bit mismatched, there should be a way, probably. Corazon secretly thought. Ahahaha, big explosion and water rushing. Advertisement. When Corazon was thinking, countless flames exploded on the Fishman Island. As long as there were mermaids or murlocs who did not kneel on the ground, those clone soldiers would not show mercy. Kisame was even more excited. Huge streams of water gushed out from his mouth, and the powerful pressure suppressed countless murlocs. During this period of time, he has been praised as a murloc, and he has been holding back his anger for a long time, but now he finally relieved his anger. Fire style Great Fireball Technique. Water style Water Shock Wave. Earth style Earth Shore Return. Tens of thousands of ninja legions led by Gokage joined hands to perform ninjutsu. The power is comparable to the scene of the end of the world. Pieces of continents fell from the sky, violent flames destroyed everything, and the impact of water washed everything away. As expected of the ninjutsu praised by the king, its destructive power is astonishing. Accelerator nodded in admiration. Orochimaru smiled hoarsely and said, Accelerator, don't say that, I'm afraid your destructive power is stronger than all these ninjas combined. Accelerator did not deny this point. In the entire empire, the only one who could compete with him was the Demon of Flame, Naz. That being said, it's still a bit uncomfortable not to be able to destroy a large area. Ju emerged from the ground, respectfully half kneeling on the ground, while manipulating White Zetsu to kill, while half kneeling on the ground respectfully said. Great, I really don't know what kind of strength the strong in this world have. Then he waved his palm upwards, and hot flames spewed out. Taking this opportunity, Accelerator and 5 cages rushed upwards quickly. After Accelerator heard it, he showed a fanatical smile. Whitebeard, is the strongest person in this world going to fight him? Well, it's normal, after all, Whitebeard is the strongest man in the world. Ju nodded in embarrassment, and said, this subordinate originally wanted to control Wood Style to destroy the ship, but that Whitebeard's attack power is too strong, and this subordinate is not an opponent. Corazon said something casually, and then looked at Wukage and Accelerator, and now they are doing nothing. There are dozens of boats coming over the sea. They belong to Whitebeard. He asked you to go up to meet him. Do you need your men to deal with him? Don't get your hopes up. Corazon lowered his head thoughtfully, looked at the bloodline on Ju's body, and said with a smile, I'm afraid you have already done it. Accelerator stomped his feet depressedly, instantly shaking the ground, and the violent air waves instantly made countless murlocs lose their resistance. Corazon said lightly no. His attack power is too violent. Once he unleashes it with all his strength, I am afraid that the Fishman Island will collapse in an instant. This is what Zunwang said, and the place that should be designated as the back garden cannot be destroyed, which makes Accelerator very depressed. The fist of the Demon of Flame. Corazon hit the sea with a fist, and the violent flames surged upwards crazily. Its violent airflow even created a hole in the sea, and then the strong repulsion prevented the seawater from rushing in. Quote. Respect the king. Since you're fine staying here, come up with me and have a look. Chapter 132 The Shocked Whitebeard Pirates 5th. Advertisement. Chapter 132 The Shocked Whitebeard Pirates 5th. Your Majesty Corazon, please be merciful and let us off the Fishman Island once, we will never dare again, and we will absolutely obey your orders in the future. Princess Otahime begged bitterly while grabbing Corazon's feet. Don't let the king waste time, I hate people who make others wait. Xie said in a cold voice, a red-robed puppet flying in the air, holding a long knife, quickly flew down from the sky, aiming at Princess Yiji. Princess Otahime, Seeing this scene, the mermaids around screamed and covered their eyes, unable to bear to see the next scene. Neptune in the distance saw this scene, his eyes were tearing apart, and he desperately ran over holding the trident, but before he could come, Natsu punched him and flew back, with extensive burns all over his body, almost dying return to the west. Corazon frowned, looked at the flying red-robed puppet, flicked it with his fingers, and instantly sent it flying. Princess Shirahoshi is still in Princess Otohime's belly. It would be a bit violent for such a beautiful woman to die now. Your Majesty. Subordinates attack the king without authorization, please punish the king. Xie was stunned for a moment, then quickly half-kneeled on the ground, and said in shame. 440 inches it's okay. Corazon waved his hand casually, relying on the puppet of the scorpion, it couldn't hurt him at all. Then Corazon raised the corners of his mouth, lifted Princess Otohime's chin, looked at the fear in Princess Otohime's pupils, smiled slightly, leaned his head against Princess Otohime's ear, and said softly. Woman, stop chattering, or you'll really s me off. Do you think you mermaids can escape? I don't need to say what kind of treatment you will receive with your mermaid looks at that time. Corazon's voice was very soft, but revealed an icy chill. Hearing Princess Otohime trembled all over, her hair stood on end, as if she was in the cold ice of the Northland. Looking at Corazon in horror, Princess Otohime only felt that the person in front of her was an out-and-out devil. The aggregate of all evils is the host of darkness itself. Although he couldn't see through Corazon, he could feel the indifference behind that smile. If he continued to beg for mercy, maybe they mermaids would also suffer disaster. In particular, mermaids are a naturally beautiful race. If they are completely conquered and have no human rights, Princess Otohime, BGFD, would not even dare to imagine the consequences. In order to prevent the mermaid from stepping into the fate of the Murlocs and the Fur tribe, Princess Otohime nodded in fear and dared not speak anymore. That's good. With a smile on his face, Corazon patted Princess Otohime on the head, and then, under the humiliating eyes of many mermaids, stepped into the sky and headed towards the sea above 10,000 meters. The Murlocs themselves don't have any strong players. Last time, Tiger was killed by him with one move. Now there is only one Jinbei left, which has not yet reached the late-stage strength. Even Masaka Makoto's railgun and Didara's C4 bomb may not be able to catch it, so Corazon is very relieved to leave it to them here. Well, mermaid, it's really pleasing to the eye, and then we can set up a territory for them. Corazon thought slightly in his heart. Advertisement. When the time comes to Mermaid Beach. With a distance of 10,000 meters, Corazon rushed to the surface of the sea in just a few minutes under the condition of pushing the gravity with all his strength. The Sea Kings encountered in the sea, as long as they could not dodge in time, were all blown into blood mist. Boom. There was a bang on the surface of the sea, and the sea rushed several thousand meters into the sea. Corazon shook his hair and looked at several large ships nearby. On the first large whale-like ship, a whitebeard about 7 or 8 meters tall, with a crescent-shaped white beard and a big knife in his hand, was looking angrily at Accelerator and Gokage. Looks like what happened. Corazon smiled slightly, turned to look at Tsunade, who nodded knowingly, and said respectfully. Your Majesty, before you came here, we didn't intend to take action against them, but there is a guy who can turn into diamonds, who speaks disrespectfully to you, and I can't do him any harm. And then one way cut off the guy's arm. While speaking, Tsunade pointed to a man beside Whitebeard who was bleeding continuously, muscular, with a broad chest, dark skin, but with a broken arm. In fact, Whitebeard was also shocked, because he didn't feel the breath of Corazon either. This is Diamond Josie, isn't it? After thinking for a moment, Corazon's figure flashed and disappeared in place in an instant. But after seeing this speed, Blackbeard had to give up this idea, because Corazon's speed was too fast, even he couldn't fully see Corazon's movements, that is to say, Corazon didn't even need a second to kill him. Trick. When did it pass? I didn't even notice. Phoenix Marco said in shock. This speed is so strong, is it Devil Fruit's ability? Corazon tilted his head slightly. After all, Tsunade's power is not enough to crush diamonds before the 100 healings mark is removed, and it seems to be enough after the 100 healings mark is removed. But he was unlucky enough to run into Accelerator. Compared to Natsu's flame that can burn diamonds, Accelerator's vector control can also collapse diamonds. But when he turned his head, he was stunned. Behind him was Father Whitebeard, and he didn't see the talking Corazon at all. Corazon's voice suddenly sounded behind Marco, instantly causing Marco's eyes to widen, and he turned his head away in horror. Where is the person? Why is it missing? Marco the Phoenix stared wide-eyed, but no matter how he looked, how he pushed observation hockey, he couldn't feel the position of Corazon. He also kept hearing about Corazon during this time, and he wanted to seize the devil fruit that Corazon had mastered. In his observation hockey, Corazon's figure is completely unobservable as if it doesn't exist there. Blackbeard, a member of the Whitebeard Pirates' second squad, shrank his pupils and watched this scene in shock. P.S. In fact, you don't need to vote for reminders, it's a waste of money. The author updates a stable 7 chapters a day, so there can only be more or less. If there are fewer, it can only be said that the author has something to do. The number of words is already quite a lot, he. Whitebeard said in a low voice, turning his head to look over his shoulder, where Corazon in a purple feather coat was standing there, looking at them with a smile on his face. Don't look, here it is. Whitebeard, do you want to start a war with me by suddenly breaking into my country? Chapter 133 4th Raikage Pike Blackbeard Open Black Lens Bracket 6th Close Black Lens Bracket. Advertisement. Chapter 133 4th Raikage PK Blackbeard Open Black Lens Bracket 6th Close Black Lens Bracket. What ability is this? The Phoenix Marco Blackbeard and others broke out in a cold sweat. Corazon was right in front of their eyes, and observation hockey didn't notice it. If this ability was used for assassination, it would be too terrifying. Accelerator seemed to see what was going on in their hearts. He gave a disdainful laugh, and stepped lightly on his feet. Boom. The main ship that Whitebeard was on trembled violently as if hit by a meteorite, and there was a rumbling sound, as if it might collapse at any time. It's this weird ability again. Although the body is very weak, it can release such an attack. Marco said in shock. Then Marco reacted, looked anxiously at Whitebeard, his pupils shrank. I saw Corazon sitting on Whitebeard's shoulder, looking at them playfully. Father, get out of Corazon, that guy's ability is too weird. I heard that as long as he touches his body, he can stop the blood circulation in his body. Marco said anxiously. Whitebeard laughed twice, turned to look at Corazon and said with a smile, little brat, do you still have this ability? Corazon nodded slightly, hooked the corners of his mouth, and touched Whitebeard's skin with his fingers. In an instant, Whitebeard's face changed drastically, and he sat back on the chair with a plop. Daddy. Marco's pupils shrank, and his face instantly became angry. With a roar, blue flames burned all over his body, and his body turned into a blue phoenix. He roared and rushed to Corazon, kicking Corazon's head. Seeing this, Corazon just smiled slightly, and stretched out his palm, Shenluo Tianzheng. A powerful repulsion force spread out from Corazon's palm, instantly making Marco's face change drastically, and he flew backwards in pain. However, this is not over yet. Corazon grabbed it with his palm, and suddenly a powerful attraction emerged from it. Universal pull, sucking Marco's body back, coupled with the previous repulsion, and moving still, almost made Marco have an urge to vomit blood. Corazon stretched out his palm, looked at Marco who was sucked in, flicked his index finger lightly, and with a bang, Marco spat out a mouthful of blood, and hit the distant ship like a meteorite, almost smashing the ship through. Captain Marco. Seeing this scene, the crew members of the Whitebeard pirates rushed up anxiously, and hurriedly lifted Marco up. Seeing the injuries on Marco's body, the surrounding members all gasped. Although Marco ate the phoenix fruit and possessed super resilience, this injury almost caused him to be seriously injured and died. With the recovery power of the phoenix, it will take at least a few minutes to recover, and this is just a blow. Doesn't this mean that Corazon can kill Marco at any time if he wants? Such a shocking scene almost made their eyes widen. Marco has the strength to wrestle with Marine Admiral's wrist, and he was defeated in an instant. I must take that guy's ability back. Blackbeard looked at the seriously injured Marco, with greed in his eyes. Originally, he thought that the abilities of Shock Fruit and Dark Fruit were the strongest, but now, he has a new goal. How dare you run into this king, you really don't know what to do. Corazon's eyes turned cold. Whitebeard suppressed the discomfort in his lower body, looked at Corazon angrily, and deposed his son Mitsuda Odin, not to mention daring to beat Marco seriously in front of him now. Boy, lousy as Whitebeard. Advertisement. Jung. Whitebeard let out a roar. His hand was covered with a layer of white light film, which contained a powerful ability. Just when he was about to hit it, his face changed again, and he bent down in pain. Corazon smiled unconsciously, and then said coldly, Marco dared to contradict the king, he must be punished. Go and FK me up with Blackbeard teach. In an instant, there was silence on the Whitebeard pirate ship. Listening to Corazon's words, the eyes of many members of the pirate group almost popped out, and even Marco, who was seriously injured, almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What the hell? He contradicted Corazon to teach Blackbeard teach. How did Corazon know about Blackbeard? Blackbeard and I turned black and ed. Did the king let me? I's heart was pounding, and then he looked fiercely at the person on the boat. Was it him? Regardless of whether Zun Wang meant that or not, he had no choice but to not understand it that way, otherwise he didn't want to be gay. Ask for flowers. The confused Blackbeard almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. What's the situation? He was just watching the excitement from the sidelines, so why did you point the finger at him? He even lost several teeth, and he doesn't look like a strong man, so why did he want to FK him? Blackbeard screamed for help. He didn't dare to use his strength now, he was really being beaten. If the 4th generation Raikage continued to ravage him like this, he might really die. Hiss. Blackbeard cursed inwardly, turned his head to look at Whitebeard and begged for help loudly. Father, hurry up and save me, I'm sure I'm no match for this guy. Blackbeard spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body was deeply smashed into the splint of the ship, making a rumbling sound of shattering, and then I grabbed Blackbeard's shoulder with both hands and shouted. Don't move around, stay and watch a good show for. Thunder bombs me. Heavy storm. Entering the 4th Raikage of lightning-style chakra mode, the power was so violent that it was astonishingly violent. With a bang, Blackbeard was smashed into the deck, and Blackbeard was smashed to the brim. You can even see the sea from the deck of the cabin. 4th Raikage Eye's body was entwined by lightning, a flash appeared behind Blackbeard, and his elbow smashed hard on Blackbeard's back. Don't underestimate the power of anger. Boom. 4th Raikage Eye, in order to avoid the fate of messing with Blackbeard himself, roared, with anger flashing in his eyes, he rushed over in an instant. Blackbeard gasped, clenched his palms, clenched and clenched again, and finally roared, rushing towards fourth Raikage. Teach. Whitebeard roared angrily, ignoring his own body, trying to stand up forcefully, but was pushed back by Corazon. Fourth Raikage let out a loud roar, with anger in his eyes. His body was instantly covered with thunder and lightning, and the violent blue thunder made his hair stand on end, standing upright, looking extremely terrifying. Boy, let you understand the power of anger. Father, save me quickly, I'm going to die, I'm going to be beaten to death alive. MD, Lousy didn't say a word here, why did he s you off? Chapter 134 is really dancing on the grave 7th. Advertisement. Chapter 134 is really dancing on the grave 7th. Damn brat. Whitebeard roared and wanted to stand up, but Corazon hooked the corner of his mouth, and the blood from Whitebeard's body was poured into his lower body. There was a bang in an instant. Whitebeard was abruptly pushed back onto the chair by Corazon, and the chair let out a groan and shattered into countless pieces with a bang. Father was actually suppressed by someone with strength. Foil Vista looked at Whitebeard, who was firmly pressed on the chair, his eyes almost popped out, and he shouted in shock. Dad has the blood of the Titan clan, and possesses stronger power than the Titan clan. Even the little Titan Oz, who is 300 or 400 meters away, will be punched down by his father when he competes with him for strength. Looking at the whole world, Vista doesn't know anyone who can surpass old 293 Daddy in strength. However, Corazon just put one hand on the old man's shoulder, and suppressed the old man alive, unable to even move a step. No, there seems to be something wrong with Dad's situation. Marco gritted his teeth and stood up, looking at Whitebeard with a strange expression and said. It must be Corazon using some despicable means. Marco, it doesn't seem to be what you think. Yizang, the captain of the 16th Division, his eyelids twitched, and the corner of his mouth twitched and pointed at Whitebeard's lower body. Why do I feel that the old man's heroic appearance has been rejuvenated? Are you kidding? Dad is obviously 57 years old now. After years of fighting, it shouldn't be hard anymore. Damn, it's true. Marco couldn't help bursting out, swearing, looking at Whitebeard in shock. Why doesn't he know that his father's capital is so big? Accelerator's mouth twitched. His vector control is a powerful ability to control all kinetic energy. How come it seems to be an aphrodisiac in Zun Wang's hands? Don't worry about it so much now. If you don't stop it, Teach will really be beaten to death. Sack said anxiously. Blackbeard Teach is his crew member. Although he is an old man of the Whitebeard pirates, he is not very powerful from the beginning to the end. If this continues, he may really die. Hurry up and help him. With a loud roar, Sage led hundreds of Whitebeard pirates to draw their swords and prepare to support Blackbeard. Stop. The king's order is to let 4th Raikage and Blackbeard fight 1-on-1. If you are not allowed to pass, you are not allowed to pass. Terumi May stood in front of those members of the pirate group, and said with a cold light in his eyes. Smelly woman who can't marry, get out of here. Blenheim, the captain of the 9th team of the Whitebeard pirates, cursed, holding a long knife in his hand, and slashed at Terumi May. FK. Corazon was so shocked that he almost fell off Whitebeard's shoulders, and then looked at Blenheim with pity. The young man thought his life was too long, didn't he? It's really dancing on the grave. Because Terumi May is older than the marriageable age, she is very concerned about hearing marriage date, or other related words and sentences with the same pronunciation. Even the people in this village dare not mention this in front of Terumi May. Blenheim. Brave. He, you said I can't get married. Advertisement. Terumi May lowered her head slowly, her brown red hair covered her eyes, and her body exuded an extremely dark aura. Hiss, that woman is going crazy, run away. Onoki gasped, and ran to the edge of the ship as if fleeing. Terumi May went crazy, the lethality is not weaker than him. Blenheim looked at Onoki, Gaara, and Tsunade suspiciously. As for such a big reaction. Although the brown red-haired woman in front of me is pretty, her limbs are weak when she moves, and she doesn't have any strength at all. How dare you say that I can't get married, I'll kill you. Terumi May raised her head furiously, and there was a trace of blood in her eyes. Boil-style Chowu technique. Teramiyaki put his hand on his chin and spit out a mouthful of white mist, which quickly enveloped Blenheim. Seeing this strange white mist approaching, Blenheim didn't dare to be careless, quickly covered armament hockey with his long knife, and slashed over with a roar. Posers, huh. Realizing that the white mist had no ability to stop it, Blenheim snorted coldly, but his expression changed the next moment. Even the other people's eyes widened, and they saw Blenheim's long knife covering armament hockey getting smaller and smaller in the mist. The long knife is like iron being thrown into a furnace, the scorching breath makes the long knife melt continuously, and before it touches Terumi May, it has been corroded into a piece of scrap iron, and then snapped off. Immediately afterwards, Blenheim let out a scream, looking at his hands in agony. Lava-style solving monster technique. Terumi May walked forward with an extremely terrifying voice, her eyes radiated a dangerous light, and the mist from her mouth kept spitting out, covering almost half of the Whitebeard pirate's ship. Forcibly rescued Blenheim with his claws, and then the Phoenix Marco plopped and fainted on the deck. After a person faints, Devil Fruit's ability will disappear, and Marco will also change into a human form at 1.3. The tragic situation on his body makes people gasp. When this liquid touched the surface of his body, the Phoenix Marco let out a scream, half of the wings of his body were almost completely burned to ashes. How dare you say that I can't get married, I won't let any of you off. Shish. There's something wrong with this white mist. The Phoenix Marco's face was serious, and then he spread his wings and quickly rushed into the white mist, trying to rescue Blenheim regardless of his injuries. Seeing that the Phoenix Marco could barely bear the boil style, Terumi May spit out a mouthful of magma-like liquid again angrily. The liquid gradually enlarged, and smashed towards the bodies of the Phoenix Marco and Blenheim overwhelmingly. Very weak. Terumi May, who said you can't get married? As long as you want, how about I marry you? The palm of the hand seemed to have touched the magma, and was scalded by the white mist in an instant, and even the bones were clearly visible. However, Marco was also shocked when he entered the white mist. The hot white mist was stronger than the magma. Beauties in menopause are very irritable. Corazon complained in his heart, then smiled and waved to Terumi May. I saw that the arm of Marco, the phoenix, had basically been burned, leaving only bones. I am afraid that if he stayed in the white mist for a few minutes, even the bones might not be left. What are those two substances? A member of the Whitebeard pirates asked in shock. Chapter 135 5 Shadows Crushing Battle, First Change. Advertisement. Chapter 135 Wines Crushing Battle, First Update. Terumi May blushed, then glanced at Corazon, hesitated for a moment, then nodded slightly. Corazon was shocked at the time. Terumi May's long green eyes, long brown cross-curly hair, the right eye is covered by the hair, mature, dignified and gentle. She is definitely the goddess in the hearts of men. The guys in the Hokage world, are you blind? Woman, your ability should be to spit out that white mist and liquid comparable to magma, right? Foil Vista narrowed his eyes and said solemnly. He has already seen that among these guys, there is only the man named Fourth Raikage Eye, who has extremely strong physical fitness. Other than that, his physical fitness is not very good, but his attack power is amazing. As long as he follows this weakness, he might be able to win. That's it, Saki, let's go together. Foil Vista roared, pulled out the two knives from his waist, and ran over quickly. Foil Vista and Sachi's pace was extremely strange, and their speed was extremely fast. Terumi May stood in the center and couldn't help frowning. 16 inches 5th Mizukage, stand back and let me do it. Quicksand storm. Seeing this, Gaara clapped his hands together, and violent yellow sand gushed out from the gourd behind Gaara. The surging yellow sand rushed out like a tsunami and covered the deck of the ship. In an instant, Whitebeard's ship turned into a desert. With a bang, Whitebeard's boat sank 3 or 4 meters. If there was a little more yellow sand, it might have sunk the boat directly to the bottom of the sea. The endless yellow sand slapped over, and hit Saki's chest heavily, causing Saki to spit out a mouthful of blood, and his body took 2 steps back. Wangsha's ability. No, isn't this Devil Fruit's ability supposed to belong to the recently famous sand crocodile, Lockdale? Diamond Joe struggled to cover his wound, and shouted in disbelief. He can actually create so much yellow sand out of thin air. Could it be that his Devil Fruit ability has awakened? But Logia Devil Fruit ability has awakened, I've never heard of it. Atmos the Buffalo, the captain of the 13th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, shouted in disbelief. Seeing this, Whitebeard shrank his pupils slightly. He naturally knew exactly what kind of blessing the awakening of Devil Fruit's ability would bring to the user. But it was the first time he saw the awakening of Logia Devil Fruit's ability. Corazon, with what kind of charm did he conquer such a strong man? Whitebeard murmured in confusion. Sage, are you okay? Vista turned his head and asked anxiously. He didn't expect such a sudden change. Now the entire boat is covered with yellow sand, even if he wanted to run fast, but he would be stuck in the yellow sand with just 1 step, but there was nothing he could do. It hurts. When Foil Vista was about to save Sake, he suddenly heard a loud roar from the sky, and turned his head quickly. His expression changed drastically. I saw Tsunade kick down. Although he didn't feel very good physically, the power contained in it made him feel chills. Beasta, run quickly, you can't bear that woman's strength. Diamond Chowzi shouted, enduring the pain of a broken arm. Advertisement. Although Tsunade's strength is not enough to crush his diamond, it doesn't mean that Tsunade's strength is not good. According to Diamond Chowzi's feeling, Tsunade is enough to crush a mountain in a group. Breakthrough. I want to run too, but this yellow sand. Beast stared at the living yellow sand under his feet. The yellow sand gripped his legs tightly, making him unable to move a step. Countless yellow sand spread upwards along Foil Vista's legs, almost covering half of his body. At this moment, Gaara stretched out his palm coldly and shook it suddenly. Sand-bound coffin. Boom. Foil Vista let out a cry of pain, and looked at his legs in shock. If he hadn't covered the armed color just now, Haki would have left bone scum on his legs in an instant. The battle has just begun. Tsunade shouted in the sky, and kicked heavily on the double blades of Foil Vista. Boom. Foil Pista spat out a mouthful of blood, his body flew upside down, smashed the railing beside the boat, and fell into the sea. Sarge, Bister. Diamond Chows watched the battle in front of him in disbelief. In just a few minutes, the 4 captains on the ship were defeated. Just look at it honestly. After all, you are close to 60 years old. If you don't hold your grandson at home, what are you doing shaking in the sea? Corazon asked jokingly. However, facing the overall attack of the Whitebeard pirates, although Terumi May and others may not be victorious, there is still Accelerator, and Corazon is not at all nervous about Ben. Seeing the screaming Blackbeard who was being beaten, he couldn't help but clenched his palms tightly. Whitebeard's face darkened. What's wrong with him approaching 6? Even at the age of 70, he is also the number 1 in the sea, the second strongest. This man obviously had the opportunity to defeat him, but he didn't do so. Instead, he suppressed him and taught a Blackbeard teach a lesson. It was like a mystery. Whitebeard gave Corazon a disconsolate look, then looked back at Blackbeard. Phoenix Marco deserves to be the strongest Emperor's deputy, the vision of observing the battle situation is really good. Don't mess up the formation. The combined abilities of these guys are indeed stronger than ours, but if we can join forces, we will definitely not weaken them. The Phoenix Marco miraculously recovered and shouted loudly. In an instant, the Whitebeard pirates, including 16 captains and 48 captains, rushed over one after another, looking angrily at Terumi May and the other four shadows. B************D Kiddo 70, what are your plans? Whitebeard looked at Corazon with fire in his eyes, he really couldn't see through Corazon. Accelerator, you go take care of that Phoenix, it's chirping, it's a bit annoying. Corazon laughed and turned to look at Accelerator. The Phoenix's ability is too perverted. Although the strength is not very good in Corazon's opinion, it is a bit troublesome to resurrect again and again. Yes, your majesty, leave that little bird to me. Accelerator's eyes lit up, he showed a fanatical smile, and rushed towards the Phoenix Marco in an instant. Whitebeard, your son has good eyesight. Corazon raised his eyebrows, patted Whitebeard's shoulder and said with a smile. But the blood all over his body has been controlled by Corazon, if he acts forcefully, his blood vessels will burst in an instant. Chapter 136 suppresses the Whitebeard pirates, second change. Advertisement. Chapter 136 suppresses the Whitebeard pirates, second change. One way. Phoenix Marco's face changed drastically. He has always been deeply afraid of this monster who took off one of Diamond Jaws's arms with just one move. Seeing a gust of wind entwined under the feet of a party, Accelerator flew over quickly. The Phoenix Marco quickly transformed into a phoenix form, and the flames on his body quickly burned on his left arm, making the left arm recover faster. It's useless. Accelerator laughed wildly and slapped him. The kinetic energy in the air quickly flew up, forming a black whirlwind, violently heading towards the Phoenix Marco. Marco beware. Diamond Chaos roared, his face extremely anxious. He knows one party's ability to pass through, and his ability is so weird that he doesn't seem like a human being at all. Just touching the surface of his body with his palm caused the diamond to shatter. If he hadn't withdrawn in time, not only his arms, but his body would be shattered in an instant. I know, but how can I defeat that guy? Marco frowned and quickly moved away from Accelerator. Accelerator once shattered the red line with one move. The power he can control is almost the same as that of Corazon. In this case, he has no way to fight in close quarters. Just thinking about it gives Marco a headache. Forget it, fight. Seeing the sound of Blackbeard teach getting worse, Marco the Phoenix was also extremely anxious, he gritted his teeth, his feet were wrapped in flames of the Phoenix, and kicked him. Sha Sanlin, do you dare to appear in front of me knowing my ability? With a cruel smile on Accelerator's face, he grabbed the foot kicked by Marco. In an instant, Marco's face changed drastically, and before his left arm recovered, there was an astonishing sound of breaking his right leg. But Marco gritted his teeth, covered Armament Hockey's leg, and kicked Accelerator's cheek with the pain he endured. My name is Yifang Accelerator, please keep my name deeply in your heart this time, please give me more advice. Accelerator took a step forward, dodged the kick, and whispered in Marco's ear. Then, there was a bang, and a boundless tsunami set off on the sea, beating violently over. Accelerator stretched out his index finger, and lightly poked Marco's chest. In an instant, a ball of blood burst out from Marco's chest, and he flew backwards screaming. Marco. Damn, how could he be so strong? Seeing this scene, Saki, who was slapped on his chest by yellow sand, vomited blood, clutched his chest and cursed angrily, and caught the body of Marco, the phoenix flying upside down. Don't come in the way, you be asterisk 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 D. Accelerator's eyes flashed coldly, and he kicked Sax away with his foot. Looking at Marco, who was bleeding from his body in burning blue flames, he stepped on it. The powerful force made the Phoenix Marco scream in pain. That's enough. Advertisement. Accelerator smiled disdainfully, looked at Gara Terumi May and the others, and said, hey, those guys over there, I'll leave these guys to you, I won't do anything. The Whitebeard pirates are only a little interested in Whitebeard, the rest of the guys are too weak. It's really underestimating people, Terumi May said angrily. Then leave it to us, these guys, I won't let them hinder the king. Gara's eyes flashed coldly, and he said in his heart, Shuhei, lend me your strength. New. A sharp roar came from Gara's stomach, and then, Gara's body was gradually covered with a layer of earthy gray chakra, like a bright-colored cloak. A patterned tail grows from the back, and the powerful chakra makes the yellow sand on the boat fluctuate, and the sky is filled with yellow sand in an instant. Gara looked at the pirates with indifferent eyes. He held his left hand on the wrist of his right hand and shook it suddenly. The violent yellow sand seemed to be alive, and quickly began to gather in the middle. These yellow sands are going to trap us inside, get out of here quickly. Seeing this scene, Bramenk, the captain of the 6th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, shouted in horror. These yellow sands possess great power. After defeating Saki just now, if they are accidentally sucked in, they will not be able to come out. Don't underestimate the old man. Onogi let out a low growl in the air. The battle just now was all about Terumi May, Gara and others, but he is not weaker than these two guys at all. Earth-style earthquake core. Onoki slapped his hands on the ground, and with a bang, the originally wooden splint lifted soil out of thin air. Single quote dot quote. Boom boom boom. The earthen walls formed a fortress, enclosing the members of the Whitebeard pirates. Boil-style Chow technique. Terumi Mei opened her fragrant lips, and spit out a mouthful of white mist, which firmly covered the members of the Whitebeard pirates. In an instant, the pirates in the white mist screamed, the heat of the breath seemed to burn their skins, and they screamed in pain. At the same time, more and more yellow sand gathered, and under the terrified eyes of those screaming members of the Whitebeard pirates, it wrapped around their bodies and gradually engulfed them. Then Gaara clenched her hands tightly and shouted, "Sandstorm burial." The yellow sand quickly shrinks, condenses, and compresses, and finally, under the pressure of countless yellow sands, a giant pyramid that is shining golden and can even reflect sunlight back is formed. Except for a few captains who escaped out of this range by virtue of their speed, the rest of the people, Didi Zhao, were all sealed in the pyramid, leaving only one head to poke out. Boy, what on earth are you going to do? Seeing this scene, Whitebeard burst into anger, but then calmed down, looking at Corazon with an extremely ugly face and asking. He could see that Corazon wasn't planning to kill anyone. But not killing people, just sealing them, this is almost impossible in battle, but it happened to be done like this, which shows that the strength of Corazon and his men is completely better than him. But he didn't know anything about Corazon's purpose, so he couldn't help feeling a little flustered. Corazon twitched his mouth, raised his eyebrows, looked at Blackbeard and said, "Don't worry, there will be a good show in a while." When he learned that Blackbeard was hiding a combat power close to the Admiral level, Corazon especially wanted to take a look. The expression on Whitebeard's face at that time was probably very interesting. Chapter 137. Blackbeard who became a sandbag, third change. Advertisement. Chapter 137. Blackbeard who became a sandbag, third update. Teach, how did you offend this guy? Whitebeard frowned, looking at Corazon with a strangely ugly face. Even being attacked by Marco, Corazon was not angry, but found Teach for no reason, which really puzzled Whitebeard. Father, hurry up and save me, I'm really going to be beaten to death, look at me, several teeth have been knocked out. Blackbeard cried out for help. His appearance was indeed very miserable, his ugly face was beaten into a pig's head at this time, and all his teeth were about to fall out. Teach, you bastards, you have the ability to come at us. What kind of skill is bullying the weak? There was only one member of the Whitebeard pirates with his head sticking out, his eyes were full of anger, and he roared loudly. But haven't you all been beaten to the ground? Corazon asked lightly. Brush. In an instant, the scene was silent. The faces of the members of the Whitebeard pirates were filled with embarrassment. Indeed, even they were defeated. I don't even have the face to say such things. Lateral bolt of pain. The 800th generation Raikage was surrounded by violent thunder and lightning, and roared. He slapped Blackbeard's shoulder with his palm, making a cracking sound that made Corazon feel his scalp numb. As expected of the future 4 emperors, the hardness of the body is almost comparable to that of Susanoo. Corazon couldn't help admiring. The lateral bolt of pain of the 4th Raikage shattered Susanoo, who was the king of Hokage, with a single slap. When it hit Blackbeard's body, it only shattered 1 or 2 bones. What did you say 4 emperors? Whitebeard asked suspiciously. No, nothing. Corazon smiled and shook his head. Whitebeard looked suspiciously at Corazon, and then looked suspiciously at Blackbeard. What's going on? After being beaten up for a long time, he was still so angry, and the screams were not weaker than at the beginning. With this ability to be beaten alone, Blackbeard is already several times stronger than the Phoenix Marco. Daddy, save me quickly, I'm really going to die. Blackbeard screamed loudly, running around in the cabin, but still couldn't escape 4th Raikage's embrace. It's really rough and thick. Corazon's eyes were full of praise, and then he turned to look at Tsunade. Tsunade, you go too. He'd have to see how long Blackbeard could hide from the bloody battle between 4th Raikage and Tsunade, 2 brats. Yes, King. Tsunade respectfully agreed, then rubbed his fists and quickly pinched a few seals with his hands. Immediately, a diamond-shaped pattern on the top of his head gradually turned into a pattern, spreading from Tsunade's forehead down to his chest and arms. Mysterious and beautiful. 100 healings mark. Solution. Corazon jumps up. Tsunade is here to be serious, even the 100 healings mark is actively cancelled when dealing with Blackbeard in the zone, right? He doesn't want his seductive beauty to become like that. 10 show fist. Advertisement. Tsunade yelled, punched the deck of the ship with a bang, and the ship was smashed into a big crater, and the turbulent sea rushed out, watching Whitebeard's heart dripping with blood. He feels that these guys are not here to fight, but to demolish the house. Boom. Tsunade punched Blackbeard in the stomach, causing Blackbeard to vomit blood and fly backwards. Lateral bolt of pain. Chop. I roared, looking at Blackbeard flying upside down. A lightning hand knife slashed over, leaving a not very deep wound on Blackbeard's chest, but it also made Blackbeard scream loudly, lying on the ground and rolling non-stop. Armament hockey. When did that Teach guy master it? Diamond Josies widened his eyes and shouted in disbelief. In just a split second, Blackbeard Teach used armament hockey to cover his chest, which BGED was barely cut in half by Ai's move. But this armament hockey is not weaker than Marco at all. For a region of this strength, Teach's strength has even surpassed Sage. That being the case, why did he keep hiding his strength and be willing to be an ordinary player? Corazon couldn't help smiling when he looked at the puzzled eyes of the members of the Whitebeard pirates. Fourth Raikage Eye's move could even cut off the horns of Eight-Tails Gyuki, but it didn't cut off Blackbeard's body. It has to be said that Blackbeard already had quite strong strength in this period. Of course, I'm afraid it's about being beaten. From this point of view, Blackbeard's ability to resist beatings in the future was not acquired overnight, but was born as a sandbag. According to Corazon's estimate, no matter how strong Blackbeard is, he is still no match for Fourth Raikage and Tsunade. This also makes Corazon look forward to Uchiha Madara even more. No, it is Uchiha Madara in the form of Six Paths Madara. Uchiha Madara in normal form may not necessarily be an opponent of Accelerator, only Uchiha Madara in Six Paths form should be a SS-level powerhouse. Capture the Whitebeard pirates this time, and teach the world government a lesson, so let's increase the strength of the troops to a certain limit as soon as possible. The SS-level power is really exciting, Corazon thought. Chunin couldn't help thinking. Damn it, Corazon, what kind of enmity do I have with you that you should treat me like this? Seeing his strength exposed, Blackbeard punched back Fourth Raikage, turned his head angrily, and questioned Corazon. He had never heard of Corazon's name before, let alone met Corazon, and there was no intersection between the two, but why did Corazon target him as soon as he got on the ship? Fourth Raikage Eye and Tsunade are deadly moves. If it weren't for his strong ability to resist beatings, I'm afraid they would have died in the hands of these two people. Such deep hatred made Blackbeard even more angry and puzzled when he felt fear. Hatred. Ha 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 ha. Corazon couldn't help laughing out loud as if he heard some funny joke. Immediately after, Corazon hooked the corner of his mouth, looked at Blackbeard playfully and said, "Do you think you have any hatred for cooperating with me? Those who have hatred against me have already gone to hell. No, demons can kill even souls, so they should be gone." Blackbeard felt a chill in his heart, and then looked at Corazon even more angrily. "Since we haven't seen each other, why did you kill me?" Under the joint efforts of Fourth Raikage and Tsunade, he almost lost his life. Not only did he expose his strength, he would also face the pursuit of the Empire, which made him terrified and almost cursed in anger. The corner of Corazon's mouth curled into a subtle arc, and he opened Min. "Of course it's because it's fun, isn't it fun to see you so deliberate and frantic?" Chapter 138. Decomposing Everything into Atoms. The Boundary Stripping Technique, 4th Update. Advertisement. Chapter 138. Decomposing Everything into Atoms. The Boundary Stripping Technique, 4th Update. Foresight. The members of the Whitebeard pirates shuddered, shook their heads fiercely, and looked at Blackbeard with questioning eyes. Impossible. Blackbeard Teach is an old man, he was on the ship at the same time as Marco, how could he betray Whitebeard? But although they didn't want to believe what Corazon said, they had to think about it. After all, Corazon was the king of an empire, and it was impossible for a king to lie. If Pluton really knew, he would probably be furious. But he is not in the mood to care about it now. Roger's pirate ship is floating on the sea, and the members are all looking at Roger with melancholy faces. The captain becomes a woman. Still a 36D beauty. To sleep together at night. It's so weird. Fun. On Whitebeard's pirate ship, Blackbeard gritted his teeth and looked at Corazon with fiery eyes. In the battle that almost drove him to death, Corazon was just playing. Are you kidding me? How could a proud man like you understand me? Blackbeard roared angrily, and Corazon rushed over.
He has endured humiliation for 7 or 8 years. Corazon has powerful subordinates, but how could a teenage brat understand him? Seeing this, Fourth Raikage Eye and Tsunade's expressions changed, and when they wanted to reach out to stop them, they were stopped by Corazon. This king happened to be bored, and I happened to meet the future king for a while, and sending him on the road, it wouldn't be considered humiliating him. Corazon said with a chuckle. Although he doesn't like Blackbeard, he has to admit that this is a hero. Willing to waste most of his life on the Whitebeard ship, just to fight for a chance. If he didn't win, his life would be like this, but he won, so he is one of the future 4 emperors. It is this kind of courage that is not available to ordinary people. Shua. Blackbeard stretched out his palm, and 3 claw-like sharp weapons appeared in his palm. With a loud roar, Blackbeard held the sharp weapon and slashed towards Corazon's face. It looks like this is the weapon that hurt Future Red. Corazon nodded slightly, and tapped Blackbeard's weapon with his finger. Crack. Blackbeard's weapon made a crisp cracking sound, black cracks spread on it, and then fell to the ground with a crackling sound. Immediately afterwards, a flame was ignited in Corazon's hand, and the hot flame was burning fiercely. Corazon walked towards Blackbeard lightly with a flame burning on his arm. Be prepared. Blackbeard Teach. Blackbeard's eyes widened and he roared loudly. How could it be possible to make up your mind? I'm not reconciled, even my father didn't find out, how could you know my plan? Boom. While speaking, a powerful Conqueror's Haki spread out from Blackbeard's body. Under the cover of this Conqueror's Haki, some powerful pirates from the Whitebeard fleet fell to the ground faintly. Conqueror's Haki, more powerful than any explanation. Marco the Phoenix looked at Blackbeard in shock and said in disbelief. Teach, did you really betray Dad? Their Whitebeard pirates came together because of the idea of the family, and those who own Conqueror's Haki, unless they are sincerely convinced, it is impossible to stay on a ship without purpose. And Blackbeard's Conqueror's Haki is destined to be different from Whitebeard. Of course, I joined the Whitebeard pirates for the most vicious devil fruit in the world, the dark fruit, but before I got it, I was stopped by this B***********, D. Blackbeard roared angrily. Advertisement, Teach. Whitebeard looked at Blackbeard in shock, he had never felt Teach so strange. At this point, even if I die, I will take you with me. Blackbeard looked at Corazon desperately, rushed towards Corazon like a person going to die, and punched Corazon in the face. This is a bit of the spirit of a king. Corazon nodded slightly, and then a burst of conquerors that was dozens of times stronger than Whitebeard's, Haki covered Whitebeard's pirate ship, and forced Blackbeard's conqueror's Haki to disappear. Seeing Blackbeard in front of him, Corazon hooked his mouth, and the violent flame burning on his arm became even hotter, and the violent flame shot straight into the sky in an instant. I don't know how many degrees of flame there are, even drying the air, a drop of water splashed from the sea surface. Before it fell back to the sea surface, it was already burned up. Flame Demon's straight fist. Boom. Corazon throws a punch. The scorching flames were like meteors falling, and the decks of the surrounding ships were all burned up, and the yellow sand was burned into glass. From a distance, it looked like a flame-colored glazed mountain. Teach, this ship doesn't need you anymore, get out. Just as the flames burned the desperate Blackbeard's hair and covered him with flames, a roar came from behind Corazon. Ask for flowers. Whitebeard ran down from the chair in a few steps, with a circle of white light wrapped around his hand, and slammed hard on Corazon's back. Your Majesty, Terumi Mei, Onoki and the other 5 cages shrank their pupils, and just as they were about to rush up, Accelerator's eyes moved. With a stomp and a loud bang, Whitebeard's boat shattered with a huge crack in the middle, and violent seawater poured in, stopping Gokage. It's useless for the king to take action, please stay calm for me. Accelerator looked at Whitebeard's eyes and said coldly. How dare he attack Zun Wang from behind? If Zun Wang didn't say anything, he would have crushed the old Whitebeard into pieces. I saw Corazon aiming one hand at Whitebeard and the other at Whitebeard behind him, with a playful look on his face. Whitebeard dared not make contact with Krathon's hand. The strongest demon fruit power in the world. Dad is going crazy, hurry up and rescue him, let's run. Beasta, who escaped by chance, shouted with fear on his face. Dust escape boundary stripping technique, Diamond Joe said in shock. Click. Click. Like lava meets snow, father is angry. Whitebeard, it's not a man's style to sneak up on someone in the back. While speaking, a white cube appeared in the palm of Corazon, spinning continuously on the palm of Corazon, causing Whitebeard's pupils to shrink, and an ominous premonition rose in his heart instantly. Facing the powerful shock force, Corazon's face remained calm, and the white light in his hand shot out like strands of light. Call out, but... Terumi Mei anxiously wanted to say something, but before she finished speaking, she was dumbfounded. The boundary stripping technique is like a white spear, piercing through Whitebeard's body in disbelief. Whitebeard's shock fruit ability was penetrated instantly, and the powerful pressure disappeared. This shock will cause a tsunami, a pirate said in shock. Dad's shock fruit, fully utilized on the boat, will cause a tsunami of thousands of meters. When the time comes, the powerful power will definitely cause the entire boat to collapse, and they may not be able to escape. Instead, he punched the air in front of Corazon. The powerful shock force even shattered the air, and countless spiderweb-like cracks spread in the sky, which looked extremely terrifying. Chapter 139 Killing Blackbeard, 5th Advertisement. Chapter 139. Killing Blackbeard, 5th Change, Dad. The 34 pirates who were trapped in the desert pyramid saw Whitebeard's body being pierced, and cried out with tears in their eyes. Diamond Chows didn't care about rescuing his companions, and ran to Whitebeard anxiously, supported Whitebeard's body, and asked anxiously, How are you, Dad? Is it okay? Wow. Just as Whitebeard was about to say something, a mouthful of blood spewed out. Smelling the pungent smell of blood, the hearts of many pirates were about to break. After following Dad for so long, they haven't seen Dad suffer such a serious injury yet. Corazon curled his lips and said indifferently, Don't yell at me, he's not dead yet. Boundary peeling technique, he only used less than 20 centimeters just now, compared to the 7 or 8 meters body of Bai. 007. Beard, it is equivalent to being pierced by a thicker needle. The reason why he vomited blood was simply because the blood vessel might have been severed. Boy, what kind of ability is this? Whitebeard wiped the blood from his mouth and asked in a deep voice. His shock fruit can be said to be the strongest in Paramecia, at least in the hundreds of years of the world, there has not been a more powerful ability than shock fruit. But in the white light beam just now, shock fruit's ability seemed to be wiped out in an instant. Although there was only one beam, it was that beam of white light that shook Whitebeard's heart endlessly. Boundary stripping, the ability to decompose all substances into atoms and blow them into ashes. By the way, it seems that you don't know what an atom is. Corazon didn't care about Whitebeard's delay, and said with a slight smile. Atomic diameters are on the order of 10 to 10 meters. Corazon originally planned to popularize chemical knowledge for them, but when he saw the bewildered look of Whitebeard and others, his face turned black. He really winked at the blind this time, these old illiterates know nothing, and said impatiently. Boundary stripping technique is to decompose matter into atoms that are dozens of times smaller than dust. This time Whitebeard and the others understood, they gasped and looked at Corazon in shock. What is this pervert ability? Decomposing matter itself is already pervert enough, but also decomposing it into things smaller than atoms. If this trick is several times stronger, I am afraid that the old man will not be able to resist it, right? Corazon looked at their shocked faces, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Onoki's ability to be accepted by him is of course extraordinary. Then Corazon turned his head and saw that Blackbeard, who had fled to the surface of the sea and swam desperately to the distance, appeared on the surface of the sea in a flash. Blackbeard saw that Corazon was trembling all over, and without thinking about it, he swam towards the surface of the sea. Corazon didn't stop, just smiled playfully and watched Blackbeard swim deeper and deeper. Advertisement: Blackbeard swam to tens of meters underwater, and was relieved to see that Corazon did not catch up. I am extremely fortunate in my heart that Corazon is a capable person and cannot go into the water, otherwise he would not be able to escape even if he had 9 lives today. Before Blackbeard could breathe a sigh of relief for a few minutes, his face suddenly changed, and he looked at the surrounding sea in a panic. The surrounding seawater seemed to be alive, spinning strangely, and even the seawater could wrap around his body, slowing down his movements. Gulu gulu. Blackbeard looked at the seawater in shock, and it poured towards his body, almost choking to death in the seawater. Blackbeard, who was still in shock, raised his head with difficulty and looked towards the sea. This look was not important, and he almost couldn't hold his breath. Although he barely covered his mouth with his hand, his pupils shrank sharply in shock. Corazon inserted one hand into the seawater, and the palm turned into water. What is his ability? It's so weird, Blackbeard thought in disbelief, then his face changed, and he swam deeper into the sea. In the flames just now, a large area of his body has been burned. If he is caught, he will only die. In a life-threatening situation, Blackbeard burst out with 200% power, swimming towards the bottom of the sea faster than sea kings. Water dungeon. Corazon looked at Blackbeard below, and said something in a low voice. The violent currents converged on the bottom of the sea, forming a transparent palm. With a bang, the palm formed by the water flow grabbed Blackbeard's body, and immediately Blackbeard couldn't hold his breath, opened his mouth in pain to spit out the air, struggling desperately. Corazon raised his arm slightly, and with a bang, the violent cold current from the sea converged into the sky. After part of the water flow gradually fell down, an arm-shaped seawater was formed, and the seawater was directly connected to Corazon's arm, holding Blackbeard's body tightly. The Whitebeard pirates and others were stunned. If Corazon hadn't fought them, they would have thought that Corazon was not human. You know, the whole world has never heard of a devil fruit with water attributes, but Corazon can control water flow, and it can be so flexible that the Whitebeard pirates question whether it is Blackbeard, no one can save you, go die. Corazon looked at one of the future 4 emperors who was caught in the air by his arm, and said in a flat voice. Wait, Your Majesty Corazon, why did you kill me? You even let strong people like Golden Lion, Bigimamu, and Kaido of the Beasts live in the Empire, and I can join the Empire, Blackbeard said with a face full of fear. He doesn't want to die, his purpose has not been achieved, how can he die now? Corazon turned a deaf ear, a ball of flame appeared in his hand, and his index finger touched Blackbeard's forehead. In an instant, violent flames burned and engulfed Blackbeard. Although I don't mind subduing you, I'm not interested in letting people stare at you 24 hours a day. Corazon said indifferently. Blackbeard's heart is very serious, and he has no connection with those people who are concerned about Whitebeard, and he is a bachelor himself. For the safety of his subjects, Corazon has no reason to let Blackbeard go. Accompanied by a momentary scream, Blackbeard, who was covered in flames, stretched out his palm unwillingly, trying to grab Corazon. However, as soon as Blackbeard raised his arm, the surging flames heated up to another temperature, and Blackbeard's body was instantly burned into black ash, which was scattered in the sea. After finishing all this, Corazon twitched his lips, looked at Whitebeard and said with a smile. Whitebeard Edward Newgate, now is the time for you to make a decision, whether to submit to me and join the Empire, or you and your sons to sink into this sea. I will give you 3 minutes to think about it, and after 3 minutes, I will destroy this place, and go find the world government. Chapter 140 Carrying the Name of the King. Let's take risks in the King's territory, 6th update. Advertisement Chapter 140 Carrying the Name of the King. Let's take risks in the King's territory, 6th update. Are you only given 3 minutes to think about it? Marco the Phoenix was moved in his heart, and then he took a bitter look at Accelerator, sitting on his back by this guy. Even if he had any good ideas, he couldn't implement them. Whitebeard fell into silence, glanced at the boat that looked like a glass mountain, and then at the fires burning around him. His face turned dark. I'm afraid it won't take more than 3 minutes, and the boat will sink. By the time, that kid forced him to make a choice. Corazon, you have captured Golden Lion, Bigimamu, Kaido of the Beasts, and now you want to capture me to your empire. What is your purpose? Powerful people like us, even if they are not as strong as you once created, aren't you afraid that the destruction will bring great losses to your empire? Whitebeard took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice. He really can't see through Corazon's thinking. If he were Corazon, he would never let the threats of Golden Lion and Bigum be alive. Because one of these guys is alive, it is equivalent to one more threat to the country. The corners of Corazon's mouth curled up, and he crossed his arms and said proudly, as a king, I won't kill them and let you kings of the sea live in the empire. My king's anger. Whitebeard's face darkened even more, and he understood what Corazon meant. Isn't this equivalent to imprisoning these kings to prove Corazon's courage and strength? But Whitebeard also breathed a sigh of relief, although he is not interested in this so-called kingly demeanor. But since Corazon said so, if he surrendered, his son's safety would be guaranteed. Golden Lion, Bigimamu and others are a lesson from the past, so he can rest assured. As for the Fishmen Island who can no longer be saved, the crippled Mitsuda Odin, Josie who has lost his arm, and the dead Blackbeard. He has no choice now, after all, he still has so many sons on board, he can't let these sons die with him. Thinking of this, Whitebeard gritted his teeth, strode off the bow of the ship, and half kneeled in front of Corazon with a plop. It doesn't matter if you kneel down, Everyone on the Whitebeard pirates widened their eyes and looked at Whitebeard in disbelief. The strongest man in the world actually knelt down to Corazon. Father, you are the Emperor of the Sea, how could you kneel down? Don't surrender to this guy because of us. Even if Dad dies, we can't let you suffer this kind of insult. Phoenix Marco, Diamond Josie and the others yelled loudly, with humiliation on their faces. It was because of their incompetence that Dad would kneel down to a boy who was younger than them. Idiots, how can my dignity compare with your lives? As long as there are you, it doesn't matter if the Overlord of the Sea is wrong. Whitebeard turned his head and cursed. The reason why he half-kneeled to Corazon was that he recognized Corazon, and he believed that Corazon could conquer the entire sea by virtue of its strength. Also because Corazon was grateful for letting him go. Advertisement it was because of his relatives that he couldn't bear these sons to die with him. Since Corazon has the strength to conquer the entire world, and his strength is so huge, plus the lives of his sons, what if he surrendered to Corazon? Whitebeard deserves to be the strongest man at sea, he has a lot of courage. Corazon couldn't help admiring, and then stretched out his hand. The violent flames burning on the ship seemed to have found its owner, and the scorching flames covered the sky and frantically gathered towards Corazon. Corazon was like a god in fire, entwined by countless flames, opened his mouth slightly, and ate the flames in his hand. He really admired Whitebeard's magnanimity. As one of the kings of the sea, he had extraordinary arrogance, but at this moment he could choose to submit to him because of his sons instead of being forcibly taken away by him. The desire and cherishment of family affection made Whitebeard abandon the arrogance of being a great Poseidon and sincerely surrender to him. People like Whitebeard won't lie. Corazon was very satisfied. After the flames were completely absorbed, under the flames, a charred ship was revealed. I'm afraid it won't be long before the ship will sink into the sea. Seeing this, Corazon stomped slightly, and a force was transmitted into the deep sea. Maldo, come up. Following the voice of Corazon, a demon with demon wings behind him, a medium black body with various strange patterns, galloped underwater for a while, then rushed out of the water and half-kneeled on Whitebeard's boat. Your Majesty. Corazon nodded slightly, pointed at Whitebeard's boat and said, fix this boat for me. Pluton Mardo was taken aback for a moment, then nodded respectfully, stretched out his palm quickly, and the jet-black plants of the underworld spread across the ship. On the surface of the ship, the keel of the ship was quickly connected by thorns, and with the sound of creaking, the ship gradually healed, even stronger than before. Your Majesty Corazon, what are you? Now that he has decided to submit to the empire where Corazon is located, and spend his old age with his sons, Whitebeard has no plan to keep the boat, so he can't help but feel a little puzzled. Corazon made a 697 hook at the corner of his mouth, opened his hands, and blazing flames burned on his body, and said with a smile. Whitebeard, this king admires you very much. This king allows you to continue to take risks in this king's sea with the name of an adventurer from now on, bearing my name on your back. Now that Whitebeard really surrendered to him, Corazon didn't want to lock up the lion, allow him to venture out on his own territory, and show the world what he was capable of. Immediately, Whitebeard and his crew were stunned for a moment, then they raised their heads in surprise, half-kneeled on the ground and shouted loudly, Thank you, Your Majesty Corazon. After all, Whitebeard and his crew were pirates, adventurous pirates. Although they decided to live in the empire with their father, they are not as comfortable as the sea after all. Hearing Corazon's words now was ecstatic. Corazon nodded, and then turned his gaze to Redline. He did not forget the main purpose of coming this time. The Fishmen Island has been conquered, the next one, of course, is the world government. Even Corazon was a little annoyed by the bastards from the world government repeatedly looking for trouble. After all, he had a lot of women, and these rats might really cause him some trouble if they weren't paying attention. Gentlemen, take the mermaid from the Fishmen Island, so I'm going on the red line. Chapter 141 The most powerful battle for supremacy begins, 7th more. Advertisement Chapter 141 The most powerful battle for supremacy begins, 7th update. Redline. Whitebeard had a vote in his heart, hesitated for a moment and said, Your Majesty Corazon, in fact, not long ago, Marine invited me to join forces with them to get rid of you on the red line, if it passes now. Although Corazon's strength is very strong, but the opponent is the cooperation of the entire world government and Marine, maybe there are also big pirates, which means that Corazon is facing the entire world. Once ambushed, Corazon's strength may be nothing but his men. In the battle just now, Whitebeard has almost figured out the strength of the 5 shadows. Although the ability is strange, but the physical fitness is not good. It is equivalent to a child holding a machine gun. He has amazing strength, but his physical fitness does not match at all. Be an enemy of this king, and I will let them know what to fear, Corazon said proudly with his arms folded. The current emperors of Gotei, as well as the future emperors, have basically been put down by him. He really doesn't like the 3 cats and 2 dogs of the world government. Seeing this, Whitebeard thought in his heart that Corazon was a bit overwhelmed. Facing the cooperation of world government and naval headquarters, how could he be so careless? Your Majesty Corazon, my body is almost recovering now, so let me go with you. Whitebeard took a deep breath and said. After all, his body contains the blood of the Titan family. Although the injury just now runs through his body, it is only above the heart. With his vitality, he doesn't need to worry about it at all. The corner of Corazon's mouth hooked, he was really underestimated. Just relying on the bastards of the world government? Plop plop. Just as Corazon's body was burning with flames and gradually flew into the air, there was a sound of plopping water on the sea surface. It is Kisame, Masaka Makoto, Suzutsuden Sara and others. In front of them, thousands of mermaids swim quickly. When they swam to the surface of the sea, countless mermaids turned their heads and glanced at the Murlocs reluctantly, and then they were urged by the ghost lamp full moon to head towards the Empire. The sight of thousands of mermaids swimming together made Corazon's eyes light up, and he nodded secretly. Mermaids are indeed one of the most beautiful races in the world. With this scene, it can be said to be a world-famous painting. Your Majesty, the Fishmen Island has been completely defeated by us. We suppressed a lot of assassins and killed a total of. Ghost Lantern Full Moon walked under Corazon, half kneeled on the sea and said respectfully, but was interrupted by Corazon before he finished speaking. I'm not interested in this. Corazon is not interested in how many people the Ghost Lamp Full Moon killed. In the future, those Murlocs will unite to rebel, and the number will reach tens of thousands. Now that he has conquered the Fishmen Island, these guys must jump out to make trouble. For this kind of guy who fears the chaos of the world, Corazon doesn't like it at all, and he doesn't care how many times he kills. The king, is your subordinate now? Guidong Manue asked respectfully. Should he send these mermaids back to the Empire now, or should he follow His Majesty to the Red Line? Corazon glanced at him, pondered for a moment and said, 7 Ninja Swordsmen come here. In an instant, the ghost lamp was full of Moon, Kisame, Zabuzon and others flickered, half kneeling respectfully in front of Corazon, and listened to Corazon's orders. Except for Kisame, you and Masaka Makoto send these mermaids to the Empire first. The battle here doesn't need so many people, Corazon said lightly. Although the strength of the 7 Ninja Swordsmen is not weak, except for the strength of Ghost Lantern Moon and Kisame, the strength of the rest of them is far from being able to participate in this battle. Advertisement. It's not that Naval Headquarters is too strong, but that Corazon is worried that they will be involved in the battle between Naz and Accelerator. After all, in the battle between the strong, the weak are in danger of life just by watching. And Ghost Lantern Full Moon has the ability to hydrate. Let him follow these mermaids back, just ensure that even a mermaid can't escape. As for Shokuhou Masaki and Masaka Makoto, two girls who didn't like fighting very much, Corazon didn't want them to participate in so many killings. Although Ghost Lantern Full Moon was a little disappointed, she still responded respectfully and turned into a stream of water, quickly driving the mermaids forward. Masaka Makoto and Shokuhou Masaki, also sitting in a small boat pulled by the mermaid, quickly headed towards the Empire. Seeing this, Whitebeard became more and more worried. Is Corazon a bit oversized? Facing the alliance between the world government and Marine, they didn't want to fight with all their strength and send out all the armed forces of the Empire, but instead let these strong men leave. Could it be that Corazon really thought that there was no one in the world government? Whitebeard knew that the world government had always been in possession of Uranus, one of the 3 legendary weapons of world destruction. The 3 ancient weapons are said to have the power to destroy the world, among which Pluton can destroy an island with one shot. Poseidon has the power to control the sea, and Uranus is the most mysterious. It is said that it has godlike power, but Whitebeard doesn't know exactly what it is. Seeing Whitebeard's worried gaze, Corazon's mouth twitched. Take out a phone bug and call Uzumaki Kushina, who is staying in the Empire. Kushina, inform everyone that the whole army is dispatched, and within 3 days, all the territory of New World will be under control. I want all New World to be under the control of the Empire. Originally, because Corazon had never had time, it had never made a move to the major kingdoms of the New World. But at this moment, World Government and Naval Headquarters have absolutely no spare time to pay attention to New World. This battle is just to bring an end to the rule of the World Government. After Whitebeard heard it, his pupils shrank, and he couldn't help but gasped. It's crazy. Originally, he thought that Roger was the most arrogant person on the sea. But at this moment, he directly overturned his own thoughts, and Corazon actually wanted to unify the New World within 3 days, with money. And he, with just these few strong men and the 100,000 clone army, is going to attack all the armed forces of Naval Headquarters and World Government. It is hard for Whitebeard to imagine that Corazon will not lose this battle. But he also knew that even if the battle failed this time, with the power of Corazon, it was enough to be a huge force comparable to the enemy World Government. Whether you win or lose this battle, it will have a great impact on the world. It can be said that the biggest battle for supremacy in the pirate world is about to begin. Yes, Your Majesty, Uzumaki Kushina responded respectfully, and then Corazon heard the excited voices of many people. The demons who stayed at the gate of Hades in half of the Empire, the 8-tailed beasts Jinchuriki, the ninjas of the 5 great ninja villages, the monsters commanded by King Duya. Listening to the voice, Corazon showed an excited smile. Millions of clone core, plus these powerful people, the new world, is at your fingertips. SS Level Force, just to finish it off, Chapter 142. Destroy this red line, Part 1. Advertisement Chapter 142. Destroy this red line, Part 1. Is this the place where King Zun used to live? It's really tall. Natsu opened the wings of the flame demon and flew over the edge of the red line, saying in surprise. The island in the sky is about 10,000 meters away, and the red line is at least a few kilometers away. It is really rare to have such a majestic place in the world. It's an unprecedented sight. This world is really extraordinary, Doya Wong said in a deep voice. Of course, the bastards of the celestial dragons, who call themselves gods, disdain to breathe the same air as ordinary people, so they built their residences on the red line, and now they should pay the price for their arrogance, Corazon said with a sneer. At the beginning, 5 elders wanted him to become celestial dragons again, at the price of his country, and threatened him that if he disagreed, his country would be wiped out, which almost made Corazon's lungs explode. I saw it, that is the Marijoy that the king said. Naz suddenly pointed at the white and majestic city above the red line. The endless cities look extremely solemn, like the places where gods live, the only difference is that those gods are not walking on this continent. Instead, some slaves with shackles around their necks. These slaves were walking aimlessly on the street, with despair in their eyes, as if they had no hope for their own lives. Corazon raised his brow slightly after seeing it. In his impression, didn't the celestial dragons lead the slaves proudly and walk the streets swaggeringly on weekdays to pass the time? How come I can't see any of them? Interesting, are they all running away again? Thinking of the last time the celestial dragons escaped, a cold light flashed in Corazon's eyes. Gentlemen, lift up this piece of red line for me, Corazon said. Now that the celestial dragons have escaped, their lair will not escape. Corazon does not believe that such a big Marijoy will not even have a celestial dragons. Even if everyone escapes, the head of the world government, I'm who lives among the flowers in the deepest part of Marijoy, she can't escape. According to Whitebeard's order, Marco, the phoenix who arrived late, almost jumped out of the sky when he heard this sentence. With an incredible look in his eyes, BGDA looked at Corazon in disbelief. Is this kid crazy? Although Corazon has the ability to move islands away, the red line is not an island, but a continuous mountain range, spanning the entire world, towering into the clouds, several kilometers high. If you want to move this mountain range, you must first cut off this mountain range from the red line, and even break the rock formation several kilometers in the strait, so that the red line can be moved away. That is a heavier pressure than hundreds of islands. Yes, Your Majesty. Everyone respectfully responded, and then looked at the endless red line. Even Accelerator showed a dignified expression. Although his ability is very powerful, the world of pirates is even bigger than his world, especially this piece of red line. It would take a lot of power to cut it off. Let's go together, Onoki said in a deep voice. Dust escape boundary stripping technique. Onogi took the lead in flying into the air, opened his palm, and shot a 10-centimeter white light beam from the tip of the palm, quickly cutting the land thousands of meters away from Marijoy, and everything he touched was broken down into atoms. Lava-style solving monster technique. Terumi Mei opened her lips slightly, and spit out a mouthful of red liquid, which quickly corroded on the red line. Advertisement, Shenluo Tianzheng. Tiandao Pain flew into the air with cold eyes, stretched out his palm, and the violent repulsion destroyed red line, making red line tremble endlessly. Wind wound. King Do Ya stared wide-eyed, and he slashed down with a knife. He had the power to smash hundreds of mountains with one knife, and cut the red 10 continent for thousands of meters in an instant. Hiss. Marco gasped, his eyes almost popped out, but he did it. With the strength of these guys, they can actually cut the red line. The Whitebeard pirates below were even more frightened and fled to the distance. The red line rubble that fell from the sky was not big, but it fell from a height of several thousand meters. The impact force of each piece was comparable to that of a meteorite. 9 lives are not enough to save. Hiss. Is the battle up there so horrible? Even the red line is shattered? Whitebeard gasped, shocked to think that, with his eyesight, he could even see the cracks spreading down the sky. Boom. At this moment, Whitebeard was shocked to find that there was a violent tremor at the bottom of the red line, a strong airwave and a tsunami, which made their whole ship swift towards the distance as if flying. The roots of the red line are split. These guys are going to move the red line away. Whitebeard suddenly had an answer in his mind, and he thought in disbelief. At this time, Corazon and Accelerator stood at the top of Marijoy. Corazon's expression was calm, and a stomp caused the bottom of the red line to shatter violently, spreading with crackling crackles, as if the continent might collapse at any time. Those slaves ran on the red line in a panic, which made Corazon's heart colder and colder. These celestial dragons and his thoughts were right, they all ran away. In fact, after learning that Corazon was about to attack Marijoy, the 5 elders didn't dare to delay, and took the celestial dragons, rolling and crawling towards the naval headquarters. Even gold, silver, jewelry, and devil fruit don't care. But at this time, through the phone bug, they could clearly see the scene above the red line, and they were furious. That boy, how dare he, that is the center of the world, where the power of the world gathers. 5 elders slammed the table and cursed. Corazon, this is no longer flipping the table, it is warming the table. Not even a mouthful of soup was left for them. The corner of Kong's mouth twitched, and he looked at them with a dark face. These bastards occupied his office as soon as they came here, and now they dare to pat his desk. Slow me down, this is not Marijoy. Kong scolded with an ugly face. 5 elders looked over angrily, only to see Kong standing up coldly, looking at them coldly. Only then did the 5 elders realize that their world government is no longer unique. Even without the money, they couldn't use military spending to contain Marine, so they couldn't help but feel angry. Damn Corazon, wait for me. 5 days later I will make your life worse than death. 5 elders cursed angrily.